To order the regular meeting of the Eastpointe City Council on Tuesday, January 16th at 7:01 p.m. Please rise for the invocation given by Councilwoman Sarah Lucido. Remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear God, we ask for your guidance as we undertake the business of our city. As we thank for the many blessings you have given us, help us to lead our community with patience, tolerance, and understanding. We ask that you direct us to do what is best for all of our residents. It is in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For everyone, we have a proclamation every year in January. It is School Board Recognition Month. And we have a proclamation that we will be giving to the school board, but we have a joint meeting coming up with the school board here on January 29th. And it is an open meeting, of course, and so anybody that would like to come to a joint meeting with the school board and the city council, January 29th, it's on a Monday night, and we will give the proclamation on that day. So our next item is a presentation by the Redevelopment Ready Committee.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good
Council.
to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you. My name's Brett Hanlon. I'm an RRC planner, or a Redevelopment Ready Communities planner, for the MEDC, or the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. I'm joined here tonight by Dominic Romano. He is Region 10's Community Assistance Team Specialist. Because Eastpointe is located in Region 10, he's your primary point of contact for a variety of incentives and services the MEDC has to provide. So I'm here with good news. This tonight marks, officially became recertified as a redevelopment ready community December 7th. But I'm really here to celebrate 3 years of successes here in Eastpointe over the last 3 years, and then looking forward, your staff has developed an action plan to keep in alignment with our evolving best practices. And so we'll take a look at that and how that's going to plan out over the next 3 years. So to begin, I briefly want to go over what the RRC program is. So it's a division of the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. You're probably familiar with the Peer Michigan campaign. That's our marketing and promotions division. We also have a business development division, and they focus on your what's typically considered economic development, the business attraction, retention, expansion. We are a division of community development, and so we focus on creating vibrant communities, creating a sense of place, a high quality of life, because we understand that it's those cities, those communities that can attract the people that you want to grow in your community, and also the businesses. This is illustrated by that image on the screen. You'll see we refer to this as the business talent place connection. And on the top, you'll read talent wants place, and moving clockwise, you'll see place needs business, and business needs talent. And so this just sort of reiterates what I was saying. It's not as simple as just attracting the businesses anymore. People are moving to where they can find a high quality of life, starting their own businesses in a lot of situations, or they're moving and then subsequently looking for a job. Right now, the RRC program is working with 186 communities from across the state of all different sizes, 16 of which have met all of our RRC best practice criteria and have become certified as redevelopment ready, and 2 have become recertified, which means they've been certified for 3 years and then have created an action plan to remain in compliance with our best practices. One of them is Roseville, and then Eastpointe is the second. So you all should be very proud of yourselves. And I'm gonna talk about some of the great things that have been going on here in the city, but really, I want to commend you for your hard work. So in December of 2014 is when you initially became certified through the Redevelopment Ready Communities program. Those certifications are good for 3 years, and then we start to look at if everything's in place. We sort of do a quick back of the napkin sort of evaluation. We're in constant contact with your staff, and then we had a discussion. Either in some situations we have a site visit, but I had talked with Mary on the phone and got the scoop. So I created a recertification memo in December. We received an action plan on December 7th, thus formalizing your recertification. And the implementation, as I'll discuss momentarily, is ongoing. So when we look back at 3 years, we take a look at, we'd have to go way back to see what was initially improved or streamlined. But in discussions with Mary, the streamlined, more efficient process has created a lot less variance requests. So that's less staff time and less hoops to jump through for your public, getting variances because your code is closer to where you want it, and it's more accurately suiting your needs. Mary also indicated she has an increased access to resources. So you have a great website, and then a segment of that is the Eastpointe FYI web page, and it has a list that inventories all available sites. So she indicated that the access to resources really makes it easier for her. It allows her to provide excellent customer service, and it's really maximizing your staff resources here in the city. So also administering the RRC best practices has facilitated an upswing in development. And so there really are a lot of examples. I picked some of them: the Detroit Wing Company, Michigan First Credit Union, Drive Time Auto Sales, the MySpace Self-Storage Project, Enterprise Rent-A-Car, and then the new wayfinding signage network in the city, helping people discover all the great things. And it continues on, the Grafton Townhome Project, Oakwood Manor, and Family Dollar. And that wasn't even all of them. I just didn't want to speak for 20 minutes here. So I want to provide you with a quick overview of our best practices, because then I'm going to delve into where improvements can be made over the next 3 years. So we take a look at really everything. Community plans and public outreach is dealing with your master plan, downtown plan or corridor plans, and capital improvements plan, the zoning regulations. We take a look at which proposals are going to city council versus the planning commission. And we want to make sure that that is efficient and effective for you here in the city. We take a look at if you are prioritizing redevelopment sites and actively marketing those, which you are. And community prosperity deals with economic development and marketing of the city. So upon our most recent evaluation, we noticed that there could be improvements in your zoning ordinance, and that is dealing with green infrastructure. And this was an evolution that has happened with the RRC best practices over the last year or so. And so you have addressed that in your action plan, but I just wanted to point that out, that you'll see that indicated in yellow on the screen. Development process was just getting an updated fee schedule on your website, which you've already done. And then 5.14 is identifying incentives, and that's something that we feel like you could do a little bit better job of for your priority redevelopment sites. So this is going over just what I had said. This is the green infrastructure criteria. The city has already revised the zoning ordinance to allow a pay-in-lieu option for tree planting. So this is providing developers and applicants flexibility with paying into a fund that will then help plant trees elsewhere in the city. So it's providing flexibility without sacrificing any of the environmental stewardship that you're practicing here. Also, that I wanted to highlight the partnership with Relief Michigan and Greenleaf Macomb Urban Forest Partnership, and you've been planting street trees, and it's a phenomenal initiative, and that's great. And so, yeah, you are already, since I wrote my memo, you've already become in compliance with that best practice. The second one is dealing with the updated fee schedule. Again, that's something that you guys have gotten online already. And so it really is a testament to your responsiveness and quickness, really, in getting that up there. And that's already met as well. The final item, again, is regarding identifying incentives. They might be financial incentives or in-kind incentives, resources that someone in Eastpointe or that you as a municipality can provide to applicants. They don't have to be financial. And the action plan indicated that there's a tentative schedule here to identify and sort of collect, do some due diligence, find out what might work best for you here in the city, and its expected completion is the end of March. So, if you're interested in learning more about the RRC program and the different incentives we have to offer, please check out our website. Here it's at www.myplace.org. And here's my contact information. There are a variety of incentives that can be offered through the RRC program. And I've been discussing these with Mary. Dominic is also a great contact for site-specific incentives that the MEDC has to offer. And we really look forward to our continued partnership with the city. And I brought you some presents. Dominic, you hold up one of those signs. It's
Brett, can you give us your telephone number, 517-290?
Yeah, 517-290-7089. And I'll give you
Thank you.
give you a card too, Mayor Pixley. And so these are they're approved street signs that I believe they're MDOT approved, or they're legal. You can have them up. And I don't know if you'll have to work with your public works or who would do that, but those are street signs for you.
Very nice.
But feel free to use them however you want.
Can we get more so we can advertise all over?
You can. So, yeah, if you would like more, let me know. You have 3 right now.
And they are approved for an MDOT street like Gratiot.
Yeah. Yep.
Woohoo.
Yeah, I know. How many people a day are going to see that? So, yeah, thank you very much. If you have any questions, please, now is a great time. Otherwise, I'll make sure everybody has my contact information going forward.
Thank you. Maybe you can just leave cards with all of us, or
Yeah.
leave them with Randy or Mary so that we can get them.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's always good news.
Yeah, you guys are doing
Move right to the top of that program.
Yep.
Thank you so much. And Dominic, thank you for coming.
The building in the previous.
All right. I think we have an amendment to the agenda.
Yes. Madam Mayor, if I may, I'd like to amend the agenda to add item J under new business, beautification appointments.
Support.
Support. Please call a roll.
Councilmember Kleinfeld,
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico,
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido,
Yes.
Councilmember Owens,
Yes.
Mayor Pixley.
Yes. All right, and please call the roll.
Councilmember Lucido,
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld,
Yes.
Councilmember Owens,
Yes.
Mayor Pixley,
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico.
Here.
And next, we're going to move to the hearing of the public. Mr. Creech.
Harvey Creech, resident of East Detroit. Madam Mayor, Council, and residents of Eastpointe. Recently, we went through quite a bit. I mean, the audit oops, I think somebody left their laptop up here.
I think that's ours. That's ours.
Ours?
Ours.
Okay, I'm sorry, apologize. And as I said, the more, it's just unbelievable reading. It's just, I think that I've got it in my hand, because if I had to revert back just, 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, it'd be just about impossible. But it's really, as I said, when you said before too, call and ask questions, there's just so many questions in here to ask. There's no way in the world I can even start to. That's why I asked for meetings. But I said, I'm just going to start off with a basic one, like I said before too. I turned in it for you not too long ago, and it says application for public information. What extensive system improvements totaling $29.7 million in water and sewer infrastructure was done over the last 5 years? What projects and what were the costs? And this was in the management discussion under the audit. We have a 52, if I'm not mistaken, pretty close to $52 million budget in the city. That's, in 5 years, that's over $5 million a year. Just in infrastructure and water and sewer. I mean, I don't think we've done it. Either somebody's pure lying, or there's a whole lot of things that the residents don't know of what's going on in the city. Because the money, it's just impossible to spend that kind of money. If I'm wrong, I'll apologize to everybody. Because right here, I come to a planning commission meeting just last year, I received this. Under the planning commission, it says we spent 9%, 9.3 miles in 5 years, $10,300,000. Here, this was the planning commission last year. If we spent $10,300,000 in the last 5 years, what happened to the other 14, 15? As I said before too, the more figures I get into, I'm not going to say now that these are lies. It's just this money's not adding up at all anywhere.
You have 30 seconds.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As I said, there's quite a few of them, and said, please, I'll read this as I said, these are the questions I would like to get together and ask. I said, are there 10-mile road buildings metered? So no matter what water goes out of there, the residents know. And I got the listing of water sewer projects. And what other sewer rates increased in the last 5 years? Between ours and the city itself, the city of East Detroit in water, what are the increases? How much did they increase per each year, and how much did we increase per year?
Your time is up.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone else wish to be heard? Mr. Duran.
Mayor, Council, I'd like to address the issue of the DOJ lawsuit. And first, I would like to say I am glad that Councilwoman Owens received her seat on council before this baseless and reckless lawsuit was settled. Any lawyer should be ashamed to bring this to court. I would like to ask some questions that the government lawyers don't seem to want to know or ask about. The past election, how many black candidates ran for council in Eastpointe? How many whites voted for black candidates? Eastpointe is not a racist town. These lawyers are acting like they are hammers and every white person is a nail. King talked about being judged by your character and not one's color. But that is precisely what the government lawyers are doing. They don't know the character of Eastpointe. I know the character of Eastpointe. I've been here for 28 years getting to know it, and it's not what the government lawyers are painting it to be. And in the words of Reverend King, so easily forgotten, and this is a quote from his I Have a Dream speech, I must say to my people who stand on the worn-torn thresholds which leads to the palace of justice. In the process of gaining our rightful place, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protest to denigrate into physical violence. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic height of meeting physical force with soulful force. The marvelous new militancy which has engulfed the Negro community must not lead us to distrust all white people. For many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone else wish to be heard? Anyone else? First hearing of the public is closed. Move on to approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of January the 3rd.
Madam Mayor, I'll motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of January 3rd, 2018.
We have support.
Support.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico,
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld,
Yes.
Councilmember Owens,
Yes.
Mayor Pixley,
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido.
Yes.
Our next item is for the the Community Development Block Grant funds for 2018. And it looks like we have a lot of people that would like to speak. So, how many do we have that would like to speak on behalf of your funds? All right, is anyone in a big hurry? All right, let's go from right to left. So who wants to go first? Would you go forward, please? Be sure and give your name very clearly. Speak directly into the microphone and talk about the organization you represent. And
Okay.
you have like 3 minutes.
Okay, I'll get through it. Okay, so good evening. My name is Carrie Maniaci. I'm the Crisis Line Coordinator for Turning Point Shelter Program. I am here as a representative for our shelter program tonight to request $3,000 in community block grant money from Eastpointe to assist in the provision of shelter services for abused and homeless women and children of Eastpointe. In 2017, we provided services for 11 people from Eastpointe. CDBG funds will be used directly and only to provide support services for women and children who are residents of Eastpointe and who are homeless due to violence. For over 36 years, our shelter has offered an array of services designed to support survivors of violence and to assist them in securing the resources needed to make a fresh start. The services include systems advocacy, 24-hour crisis intervention, support groups, medical support, skills building, employment housing and housing search, and case management. We are particularly proud of the shelter's comprehensive children's program, which provides emotional support, education, safety planning, childcare, and recreation for people in shelter from birth to age 17. Our residents are provided 3 meals daily, personal needs items including clothing from our secondhand store, 24-hour staff availability, children's programs, including a very successful summer camp program, access to our counseling and therapy programs and outreach services, court advocacy, and civil legal assistance. Turning Point's commitment to ending domestic violence and sexual assault cannot happen without the support of our community. Please help us to maintain these critical services by supporting the continuation of grant funding support. Thank you for this opportunity to address the council for your consideration in providing part of the solution for a community response to domestic violence.
Thank you very much. And who would like to go next? Please. Sure, just put them at the end and we'll pass them down.
My name is Tara Plinus. I'm here representing Care House. Kind of nervous and excited just because I've never done this before, and I'm really passionate about what I do, so I'm really excited to tell you guys about it. But I want to start by telling you what Care House is. What Care House is Macomb County's Child Advocacy Center. We are one of 34 accredited child advocacy centers in Michigan. We get our referrals through law enforcement and child protective services, and our services focus on working with child victims of sexual abuse and physical abuse. And we provide services to over just about 800 families every year. So we work really closely with law enforcement, especially here in Eastpointe, Child Protective Services, the prosecutor's office, different mental health professions, medical professionals, especially Turning Point's forensic nurse program. And our main goal is to reduce stress and trauma for kids that have to undergo a child abuse investigation. We help these kids and their families get through the investigation and the prosecutorial process. And then we provide services for them afterwards to kind of get through what they're going through. What we do is really important just because child abuse and neglect is really an epidemic. Over 1 million kids in this country suffer from abuse and neglect every year. Care House opened in 1996, and children and families in Macomb County with concerns of sexual or physical abuse have to navigate this really confusing maze and sometimes scary maze of professionals, law enforcement, CPS, medical. And every time they have to relive all these painful memories, they have to talk about what happened to them. And it kind of adds more trauma to kids that already sometimes have really complex trauma or multiple traumas in their life. So what Care House is we're child-friendly, we're family-centered, and we coordinate the entire and support services for child victims. And a big part of what we do is forensic interviewing. So all the team comes to Care House, they get to observe the interview, and they watch it on closed circuit television, and then one of our interviewers gets to meet with the child and talk to them about what happened, and then that reduces the trauma to the kids so they don't have to keep telling their story to everyone else on the team. Another part of what we do is we give services to the kids. So we do crisis counseling after the interview, which is basically sitting down with the parents and making sure that they're okay. We do support group, safety assessments, advocacy for the families, give them resources and referrals, and then we do trauma-focused therapy with the kids, which is what one of my main jobs is at Care House. And all of this we do free of charge to our families. We're really excited to announce that we're actually opening a satellite location in Warren here pretty quickly. It's just because we've grown so much and we've reached capacity with staff, and within our schedule we just we decided that it would best fit our community to open a second location, so that'll be coming really quickly. And I lastly wanted to share some statistics with you guys. So I said our doors opened in 1996. So since that time, we've provided services to 6,400 families, or 6,400 children, and 234 of those were Eastpointe children. In 2016, we did 510 interviews, and 20 of those were Eastpointe children. In 2017, we did 606 interviews, and 34 of those were Eastpointe children. So last year we received 2,400 from you guys to help us serve 4 families from Eastpointe. And this year we're respectfully asking for 7,200 so we could serve 12 families from Eastpointe. And the last thing I just want to add is we always welcome calls from community members. If you guys have questions about child abuse or what we do and how to keep kids safe, we have our website, mccarehouse.org, and then we're on Facebook. So do you guys have any questions for me about Care House or what we do?
I don't think I have any questions.
Okay, thank you so much for your
You
time.
do a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you. And who would like to go next? Okay.
council members. I'm Dave Meyer. I'm a volunteer tutor with Macomb Literacy Partners, and we thank you for this opportunity to present our case. We also appreciate the generous donation we received last year. I've been a volunteer tutor for at least 12 years. I'm a vice president on the board of directors. They gave me a prepared speech. I do not like prepared speeches. It has statistics in it. I worked over 10 years. When I was gainfully employed, I retired from GM. I'd had statistical quality control for 10 years, and I glazed over many pairs of eyes with numbers. So I'm not going to do that to you tonight. Accepted? Okay. I will give some numbers to you, though. In Macomb County, there are over 100,000 adults over the age of 18 that read below the 4th grade level. Under today's standards, to receive a GED, you have to have a 9th grade reading level. That's quite a jump. We have been doing this for 33 years, and unfortunately, we really haven't brought the numbers down. We've gotten many people through the program. I believe it's something like 60,000. But every year, we have more candidates coming in that have problems reading. Some of our success stories, we had a gentleman that lived in his present residence for 12 years, could not read the street sign. He came in one day and he said, I am so proud. He said, I look at that street sign every time I turn the corner, and I can read it. I can read directions to get to my home. I didn't realize until recently, to receive a driver's license in the state of Michigan, you can ask for a test in your native language. We have an individual in our program that was sent to us by the courts because he was in a minor accident, and the policeman that was taking the report couldn't converse with him. He ended up in court. The judge ordered him to join up to register with Macomb Literacy. To me, that's scary. You have somebody on the road and they can't read the signs. But that's me. We have people that come in. We have a gentleman. He had a 3-year-old son. Neither his wife or himself could read. The son had diabetes. So the father, geez, I got to give him this medication. I have to read the forms. I have to know how to speak to the doctor. I was working one-on-one with a Polish lady, and we were going over some medical forms. We try to give them every day driver's test, applications for driver's tests, applications for employment, etc. So we had this medical form, and she had some questions. I said, what do you do when you go to the doctor? She says, oh, that's no problem. I either take my adult son or I go to a Polish-speaking doctor. Okay, you can get by that way. Generational. Illiteracy is generational. If the parents are illiterate, chances are very high the children will be illiterate. I have, to the ladies on the council, the women that I work with in this program are more motivated, and they think of the children. I have to help the children with their homework. I had one lady she said, I don't have time for this anymore. She had 2 daughters, 8 and 10 years old. I said, what are you going to do? I said, they're advancing in school. They're learning English. What are you going to do when they might become embarrassed by you? Oh, that won't happen. I said, why won't it happen? I'm their mother. I'll always be their mother. Well, I didn't say anything, but I thought, well, good luck with that. Any mothers?
So your time is almost up.
Okay,
30 seconds,
I would just like to wrap it up then. I have some literature for you to read.
please.
Like I said, I started out with I appreciate, Macomb Literacy appreciates what you did for us last year, and we're back thinking 2018. Thank you, Madam Mayor, council members, for your kind attention.
Thank you. Are you always looking for volunteers as well?
Yes.
There are some people that don't have something to do all the time.
I thought you were signing up.
No, but we,
I'm on the board. I'm retired. Other board members, Dave's retired, let's give him this job.
we do have 2 organizations within the city that donate to the literacy group, both the Kiwanis as well as Rotary get really involved with the Macomb literacy groups.
Thank you.
Okay, who's next? Maggie? Always good to see you.
You too, Mayor. Mayor Pixley, Council, thank you for giving us this opportunity to be here tonight to reach out in your community and hopefully, none listening will need our services, but if they do, we certainly are here. My name is Maggie Varney, and I'm the founder and CEO of Wigs for Kids. What we do is provide wigs and support services for children and their families all throughout the state of Michigan. We have serviced 9 children right here in your community, and we have 2 who are currently active. And when I say that, that means the 2 that are active are still wearing and in need of wigs, and we have provided them. The ones that the other 7 have finished their treatment, their hair has grown back, and they're doing well. So, and that's what we pray for every child in this program. You know, 65% of our kids have cancer. I work with all 8 hospitals all throughout Michigan that service pediatric oncology. And we do help burn survivors. We're registered with Phoenix Burn Society and also U of M Hospital. We have, not only do we provide the wigs, but we provide all the emotional, social, and psychological support too. Our services grew 72% just in the support services. Even, like, we have 10% of our kids are boys. Not all of them want a wig, but all of them come and participate in our classes. We have field trips, and we have therapy, individual therapy, and family counseling, and grief and loss counseling too, you know, after they've lost a child. And they can come. I had a mother ask me, how long can my family come here, you know, for counseling? And I said, until you don't need us anymore, and you'll know when that is. So we open that up to all of our families, and they utilize that service. And of course, everything is provided at no charge. The wig, all the, everything they need to maintain and take care of it. All the return visits, you know, when they're going to prom or homecoming or, you know, first communion, they can come back and get it serviced, and there's no charge for any of it. And I'm very proud to say that we have serviced over 4,000 children right here in Michigan. And that chokes me up every time I say it, because you hate to think that there's that many kids that need our help. But the reality is there's 500 newly diagnosed cases of kids with cancer right here in Michigan every year. And when a kid has cancer, they have it for 3 to 5 years minimum. Where adult, it's 1 year they're in treatment. And the recurrence rate is so great for children. So it's a reality, and we are servicing our kids in our communities right here, and that feels good. And to know that we've gotten the support from you guys, and you know that you take care of your own. And we always leave with this message that if you ever know of a child, you know, please send them to us. We help everyone. We charge nothing, and we turn no one away. And there's no waiting. So I had a young girl call me today, a mom call me today. Her daughter's 10 years old. She was diagnosed with ALL when she was 2. And, you know, they think if you pass the 5-year mark, you know, you're good. And she's 10 years old and she just relapsed and has it again. So you never know. You know, and I see these kids, they come in, they're 3 years old, as young as 3, and I see them graduate from high school. And I go to their into chemo parties, and I go to the hospital and measure them so they have their wig when they come home from the hospital so they can go see their friends and be with their family. And, you know, we're doing good work, and it is through the grace of God and the kindness of people that we have been able to do this for so long. And you guys have always supported us, and thank you so much.
I'm trying to remember, when you first started was about 2000?
2003. I registered and started seeing at the end of 2003, and then I registered as a nonprofit in 2004.
I remember one of your very first presentations was to our Eastpointe Chamber of Commerce.
Absolutely, yes, and thank you. All these years have gone by, and we just still keep, and unfortunately the need is great, but isn't it wonderful that these children have an option? Before Wigs for Kids, there was no option. These wigs have to be custom made for each child. But we received last year 17,000 hair donations from 56 countries around the world. And we use that hair, and that's what we make the wigs with. And it's all virgin hair, and it's beautiful. So we don't have to pay for the hair. We recycle and use that hair to make these beautiful wigs for the children. So it's very important to them. You know, they just want to be a kid. They just want to fit in. They want to go out into society and be a normal kid. You guys have all been kids. You know what I'm saying. You know, they just want to be a kid. Are there any questions?
I was just going to say, though, Maggie, my wife, Alyssa Diebold, her hair is almost long enough. She's going to be coming to see you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Right inside of Wigs for Kids, we do have a full-service salon. So if you come there and get it cut, 50% pays the stylist, so it doesn't come out of the program, and the other 50% actually goes with the hair to the making of the wig.
Okay.
But you can get it cut anywhere and just drop it off or mail it to us. You know, we're happy to receive it, believe me. And we're through, we have all through the state of Michigan, and even in the upper, people come because we're the only game in town.
Well, my wife's a Youper, so.
Your wife what?
Is a Youper.
Okay.
You're talking about the Upper
She is,
Peninsula,
yes,
right?
Yeah, right. Well, we have a few kids from the upper. Now, that's a long way to come.
Yeah.
You know? But, and they need a new wig every year because their little head size changes. So it's not like they get one and they're set. You know, they usually go through 2 or 3 at least till they're done with treatment. So,
So
but thank you.
Thank you very much for coming.
Oh, of course. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. I didn't tell you how much I was asking for $1,000, if you'd be so kind to consider. That would cover the cost of a wig and all the support services for the whole family to receive anything that they need.
Did you happen to have any children from Eastpointe last year?
2. I have 2 in my program right now from Eastpointe, and you'll see the pictures, you know. But we had 9, but we have 2 active.
Okay.
Because after they're done with their wig, and we pray that they never have to come back, you know, then we put them inactive.
I don't know if you remember me. 3 years ago, I came in there, you know, I did the comedy, and I offered services for the fundraiser.
Oh!
Remember me? That was 3 years ago, yeah.
Yeah.
So next time you have, you know, I have my talent agency to raise money for the children. The offer still stands.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You see, this is what I mean. This is how we do what we do. When you're a nonprofit, you guys know,
Yeah.
we are dependent on volunteers. You were
Yeah.
talking about volunteers. Listen, I say if you're breathing, I can find a job for you, you know? There's always so much work to do.
Yeah.
And we have people, we have brownies that come in and make cards for our kids in the hospital, and we have seniors who come and volunteer. So, you know, we accept and appreciate everybody. We all work together, right?
Yeah, thank you for what you do.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, who else would like to do a presentation about the charity? Anyone else? Anyone else for CDBG? All right. Well, thank you very much, those that did come. I think we make the decision on that next week.
At the next meeting, correct.
Okay. We have no unfinished business, and we'll move on to reports from administration. And let's start with our acting city manager, Mr. Marucci.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. A couple items I'd like to report with you on. One is the signs should have gone up this afternoon. I saw them. I told them exactly where they should be placed. So my belief is the signs are up in the, I'll call it the library parking lot, designating more parking spots, 5 for 2-hour parking. So that makes a total of 10, I'll call short-term parking, and they're in essence back-to-back. So hopefully that will handle the situation, and the people will realize, you know, if you go there, you see, I've gone there as early as 6:45 in the morning, I see cars parked, but the first 5 spots that are on the westerly side of the parking lot right off of Oak Street have been designated. We were thankfully able to use an existing signpost, and we only had to put one additional one in. So we've now designated 10 for 2-hour parking. Also, I was supposed to have heard last week, but I did not hear, so I'll follow up from the Michigan Department of Transportation with respect to why there's a ban on parking in front of part of the rental furniture shop and Mr. Albert's store. I know they're busy because they're working on several large projects, but I'll follow up this week and at least see. I know they've, as I mentioned, they visited, but they were trying to do their own research to find out why the signs were there.
I think there are 2 places in front of Aaron's.
There are, the very first 2, and then it stops, and then I think you have to go to about the children's garden, and then it's allowed again. But you're right, there's about 2, but for some strange reason, there's 5 or 6 that are, what in essence would be 5 or 6 that are not there. Secondly, we met today, Linda, myself, met with the school superintendent and his assistant with respect to an agenda for January 29th. They gave us 4 or 5 items. I'll let you know what those items are. And there may not even be items. There may just be items that they've heard talked about from the school board. So on Friday, I'll report all those items. And if you have items that you'd want on the agenda that may need some research, or at least to notify them that we're thinking about this, whatever that means, please get them to me so we can get those out. We'll be doing the agenda, and again, how we handled it a year and a half ago was they'll take roll, we'll take roll, the meeting will be posted, we'll set it up in I would probably say a rectangular square in this room here, and we'll proceed from there, and then we do the minutes, and then the 2 boards, or the 2 staff people from the boards will separate the minutes appropriately. So please get with me if you can by this Friday, and let me know what thoughts or items you want on the agenda, so that way we can prepare internally and as well for them. Water bills are due on January 21st. I always like to remind people, we had a line today, and that's pretty typical, but the 21st, I think, is, Randy, is that Sunday? Either way, it's the weekend. And the key thing is, the next business day is when they're due, so if you want to pay, Thursday would be our last business day, the drop box, but also the next business day after the 21st is there. We accept them with no penalty, obviously. An item was brought up at the DDA meeting last week, and also about, I'd say, 4 to 6 weeks ago, regarding damage that was done to the irrigation system on Gratiot Avenue by the contractor. I think most of it was located, for one reason or another, south of 9 Mile, but wherever it was done, we have quite a few bills, and I think I stopped tallying at about $9,000. So I'm going to be writing to the Michigan Department of Transportation before they close out the project and saying, why was this done? And most importantly, we really need reimbursement to the tune of 100%, because we marked whatever lines were there, and several of us, the finance director, the assistant manager, and myself during the summer went out there and looked like some of the work was really done blatantly in terms of damage. I mean, vehicles running over equipment, and it was like, this is clearly marked, and if it wasn't marked, it was clearly visible.
But it was not all repaired.
If it was repaired on our dime by us.
But the repair on the first one next to Moak, and that line was never done, and it's damaged under the street. And there was consideration that maybe some of that could have been the gas company as well, because they were putting in new gas lines. So I think you're going to find that it's not all MDOT.
It probably isn't, but I know the majority of what's in the median, there was a lot of damage there.
But can we please get Schick or somebody that knows that irrigation system to go out and repair it so we have some water? It's just not fair for people to bring in hundreds of dollars of plants and have them all die because there's no water there. It's impossible to carry the water to do all that. Michael is the only one that could do that because,
Possible.
He's young.
but it was extremely difficult. And even though you put something in for arid land, everything died. Some of the things that never die died because there was no water.
And that's all I have.
Anybody have questions for Mr. Marucci?
Yes. This is something that pertains both to administration and to finance. I had reached out to, or I'd like council to know, I had reached out to BSNA to find out more about their education programs because I wanted to learn more about what our software does and whether or not we could have access to it, what kind of reports it does, so that we could better understand how to ask for information. They did respond with kind of like a proposal thing that they do with education, and I forwarded that to Joe and Randy. And I wanted to find out if council would want administration to go forward putting together like an educational day for us regarding that software.
I think it would be really nice for us to know what it is, but I do know that if you're going to be looking at the BSA, you're going to have to be looking at it in-house because you're not going to be able to tie into it from an outside computer. Isn't that right, Andy?
Yeah, BSNA is a server-based database, and our access to it is through a fiber optic loop that goes through all the city buildings. There is no outside connections to the server itself. So, yeah, training, one thing is they only do training during the day. So it would have to be Monday through Friday during the day type training. Just keep that in mind. But as far as accessing BSNA, we've talked about it. Right now, our only solution would be to set each one of the council members up with access at the computer in the council office, and you'd have to physically come here, log in, and look at stuff. There is no remote access, intentionally for security purposes, but yeah.
I think it would still be worth it, Mr. Kleinfeld, to have them come so we can see what they do and what kind of reports, because it would be worth it just to gain that additional understanding.
Yeah, I think so too, because I think it was a year before I knew what something like a vendor run was. And if I don't know how to ask for something, it's hard for administration to understand what we're doing. I did, when I had shared the information with Joe, the one-day training I think is $1,100 for up to 15 people. And I thought it might be a good idea, or I think Joe, you're the one who mentioned it, sharing, maybe offering Roseville council people and like St. Clair Shores, say, hey, do you want to train as well, and split the cost, host it here, for, if we can keep it under like $800 and we all go through training, that's actually pretty reasonable for all of us, I think.
Sounds good.
So,
Probably this room would be used, and this room on a Friday is pretty accessible. Is that, if we choose a Friday 4 to 6 weeks out, so that we can contact St. Clair Shores and Roseville, is that sound good to the council?
I'm thinking that maybe even a little bit further than 4 to 6 weeks.
Well, you still have to coordinate with BSNA and find out when trainers are available,
No doubt.
and they're normally scheduled good 2 to 3 months in advance. So that would be the first thing, is find out when they have somebody available, and then, pick a few dates.
Is it like a half day, full day?
I don't think it
That they
indicated
usually
on
do.
the,
No, and for what they'd be covering, because it's not going to be hands-on, data entry type activity, they could probably get through what they need to in a half a day.
Look at a Friday? Okay, I'll get several dates. Okay. And I'll contact those two communities as well.
All right, let's move on to Finance Director.
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council.
Warm welcome back.
It's amazing for me to say, but I am glad to be back. It was boring sitting home. The other thing I'd like to say is, if I'm speaking to you and you think I'm looking at you funny, I probably am. The sight is slowly coming back, but I can see Michael, Sarah's a little fuzzy, and it gets worse from there. So, One thing I would like to say is I'm planning on doing a financial presentation at the next meeting, what I would have done during the audit meeting. I think there's some elements that need to be highlighted that would not have been covered during that particular meeting. I've been playing catch up, so I didn't have time to get ready for tonight, and tonight's a full agenda anyway. So I'm targeting the next meeting for a financial presentation. And basically, I've been playing catch up since I got back to work. So I got 2 of my 3 state deadlines taken care of today, and the other one will be done by the end of the week, and we can call fiscal year 17 done. So.
There was a very interesting discussion on Off the Record this week by Mr. Curry, the state treasurer, about changes that are going to be happening up at the state. So maybe you can brief council with a lot of those changes that are coming out of the state treasurer
Okay.
related to ups and downs of revenue sharing and all the other things. He was also talking about the PPT, or the PPT was eliminated, what was happening since that time. And I don't know if you've had a chance to get up to date with some of that.
Have not gotten up to speed on that stuff yet, but I will.
All right. I'm sure that you'll be going to a treasurer's meeting sometime soon, because it sounded like every local government was a little bit upset with what was going on.
Well, they've made a lot of changes that nobody's happy with.
Particularly related to pension and OPEB.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the reports that went in today. There's another unfunded mandate from the state of a pension OPEB report that had to go in. So it's like, you could look at this other report and get the information, but no, we'll do the special one for you, state, because we love you.
All right. Any questions? Let's move on to our city attorney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. I did not have a report section this evening, but I did want to thank Mayor Pixley for the invite to the PACE Awards Luncheon this afternoon that was held at the historic schoolhouse on 9 Mile Road. I thought that was a very well-attended event. I believe, Mayor Pixley, those meetings are held on the 3rd Tuesday of the month, and those are typically held, though, here at City Hall. But great organization and great event today, so I want to thank you for that.
They're not always as much fun as this one was today.
That was fun today.
Every time you have food, it becomes fun.
I'm happy to answer any questions any of the council members may have this evening. All right, thank you.
Anyone? No. All right, let's move on to new business. Lots of stuff. Authorization to the advanced construct, the Topher reconstruction, Boulder to Roush.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good
evening, Mayor and Council.
I sit on SEMCOG, and I know that we approved this, so I was a little bit taken back by.
Well, it is approved. It is on the tip. It is funded. I'm here to talk about a little speed bump, as I can refer to it as, on the Topher Road project that's planned for this summer between Boulder and Roush. We currently, that project is in Lansing. Plans and specs have been approved. The project is ready to go to bids by MDOT. Unfortunately, they have run out of what they call obligational authority. That is the authority of them to obligate projects with federal dollars that they receive from the federal government. As many of you may or may not know, the federal government is operating right now on a continuation, a funding continuation that takes them through January 19th, I believe. So the last extension was through, I think, December 23rd, in that ballpark. So the federal government is releasing chunks of money to the states for their federal programs. And we're kind of caught in the middle of that with this particular project. And there are a couple options. The project, just in summary, is about a $1.8 million project. It's 80% funded with federal funds, which is a little bit under $1.5 million in federal dollars. The money, as I indicated, is in the tip. It is funded. It just has not been received by the state of Michigan as of yet. We have 2 options at this point. We can do nothing and wait until wait our place in line until the federal funds are available for our project. It'll get obligated at that time, and the project will get bid. Most likely, that means that we will miss the next letting that would be available to us, which would be the March 2nd letting, and the project would probably be bid on the April letting, which is the first Friday in April. This could potentially cause the project to increase in cost, and it could potentially delay the start and completion of the project. The other option that MDOT has given us is what they call an advanced construct, where they're asking for the city to provide them with an email indicating their request to advance construct, which means that temporarily between now and when the federal funds become available, you would be responsible for those federal dollars. If for some reason those federal dollars never became available, the city would be responsible for the entire amount. The state has told me that they do not believe there's much risk in that happening, being that we're only a few months into the fiscal year, and the federal money has been released. It's just a matter that it has not been received by the state as of yet. I did speak with MDOT as early as this afternoon. They told me that they did get an allocation. They did receive an allocation. They believe that there's a pretty good chance that our project will be funded, but they won't know that for sure until about the end of this week. What I'm asking for tonight is that council approve the city manager to authorize advanced construct of this project if, come Friday of this week, we don't receive the funds during the normal method, then the city manager would indicate to MDOT the request for the city to advance construct to keep the project on the March 2nd bid letting schedule so that we can keep the timing and hopefully the cost of the project as we originally anticipated.
Is anyone else doing this option? Like any other
Yeah, I had,
municipalities?
Oh, yeah.
I have another project with the city of Grosse Pointe, and they recently authorized the same thing.
You know, this has been on, in the regional transportation plan for, what, 5 years now?
The project?
Right.
Yeah,
And it just moves up, because the first part of it was the Gratiot to Boulder.
That's correct.
For 1 year, and then there's a third one after this.
There is, we don't have funding for that third piece yet, but we're working on trying to get that.
Because we voted on that, we voted on all three of them. So it's in there. I think you're gonna get the money by Friday.
And is it Friday because that's when money runs out for the
No.
federal government's
Well,
budget too, or?
I think it's primarily because they're going through, the projects are kind of all in a queue, and they're going through and obligating each project in the order that they were received. So until they get to ours, they don't know for sure whether we'll make it. They think it's a pretty good chance that we will make it.
Our project has been there for quite some time. There's not that many this year for Macomb County either. All right, do we have a motion?
I was just going to say I had emailed ahead of time about this because I wasn't familiar with it. I'm comfortable with going forward with it if the rest of council is.
I am.
Okay. I will make a motion to proceed with Topher Reconstruction Boulder to Roush project using advanced construct option.
Support. And then did we want to say anything about Friday then? Since this, like
That's
you
up
were
to
saying?
council.
Really, it doesn't, we'll wait till Friday
Okay.
for the simple reason that if federal funds come through, then it's not worth proceeding. But if we're comfortable, if we could release at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, because we believe we're going to be reimbursed the money. But I think I'll wait till then
Yeah,
anyway.
we'll wait till
Waiting till Friday does not delay the March 2nd
Okay.
award. That's the key. That's what we don't want to miss, is that March 2nd date.
Okay.
Steve, just refresh us in terms of the timeline for construction.
Assuming that the project is bid by MDOT on March 2nd, I would anticipate that they would have a contract in place roughly a month later, and that we would start construction sometime in mid-April.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, so do we have support for the motion?
Yes, I support.
Yes.
All right, please call the roll.
Councilmember Kleinfeld,
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico,
Yes.
Mayor Pixley,
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido,
Yes.
Councilmember Owens.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pangori. Item B is adoption of resolution number 1844 to waive interest and penalty associated with untimely and not filed property transfer affidavits.
I'd like to speak to this before you go ahead. The property transfer affidavit is required to be turned in within 45 days of a closing on a home, or any property, actually. The penalty for not filing within that time frame is $5 a day to a maximum of $200 per state law. We have billed this in the past, but it is not something that is a lien on the property, and it is not collectible as a delinquent like we do with water or weeds or any of that. We, just like false alarms, are in the same boat. We can bill a property owner, but we cannot force them to pay it, if you will. What we found is we would spend a lot of time gathering the information, get it billed, send it out, and then we just sit there and wait and wait and wait, and it would never get paid. Some people did pay, but most people did not. And again, we had no way of enforcing it. It's not even worth the attorney's time to send them a letter for $200. The last billing that we did on this was in February of 2012. We have not billed since, and we have written off all of the old billings that were uncollectible. And we were just going along our merry way, and then the state changed the rules, and if a community does not bill, we have to get a resolution of council that says we're not going to bill. So if you don't pass this, then we have to get back into the billing mode and bill it and not collect it and write it off at a later date. It's not worth the headache of going through all the paperwork. And this is merely to appease the state and their requirements. Unless council wants us to bill, we can do that. But like I said, there's no way to enforce it. It's not a lien on the property. We cannot roll it onto taxes or anything.
My one question then would be, can we follow up at least? Because I just asked in our show cause hearings, sometimes it's like, yeah, I bought the property, but we don't see it, recorded. And can we at least send some follow-up letters when we would send a bill or something to at least get them to file then, if that makes sense?
Well, and there's two ways we find out that they didn't file, is they file late, and we get it, okay. The other thing is when they call and complain that their tax bill or water bill hasn't shown up at their address in their name, and that's like, well, we don't have you on record as being the owner.
Right.
Well, the third way is we get a copy of a deed through the county too. Our assessors can find it that way. We can do the follow-up and request them to fill the form out, but actually once we get the deed from the county, we do the name change anyways.
Okay.
So if we're not going to do the penalty, then there's really not a lot of reason to do the letter either.
Okay.
So,
Just curious.
yeah.
Okay.
We wrote off about $25,000 worth of billings back in 2013. Just, again, we had no way to collect it, so.
Was that for just 1 year, or was that for?
That was about, that would have been about a 2-year period at that point.
You collect none of it?
We collected some, but as a percentage, maybe 10% of what we billed. And it just wasn't worth the administrative effort to get that little bit of money.
I mean, do you think it would change if we don't put something in place where people have a penalty and not following the rules? I mean, I think that's why it was made in the first place when, for like Cardi said, if we're trying to find, the person's property or who owns it, we won't have so many problems doing that if people, did this. And so putting this penalty on there would, it's not a lien to their house, so it's not like we're taking their property if they don't do it. It's just putting something in place to,
Yeah. The majority of the time, these paperwork is not filed because the title companies don't actually inform people they need to file the paperwork. And a lot of times it's not the new purchaser's fault because they're just not aware it's something they have to do. If anything, the state ought to make get a penalty against the title company for not having them fill it out at closing. But, yeah, most people, I mean, how many times do you buy a home? You know, not everybody knows the state law, so.
I will say, I wasn't sure how the discussion on this was going to go because I was confused on it. I would have to take another look at the act. I mean,
Is it number 5 that would apply?
Yeah, section.
What are you gonna do?
well, it's number
You gonna
5,
do all
but
the retro billing then?
so, no, I was thinking that perhaps we could do a resolution where we waive up until this date or something, but going forward, be diligent on billing. But I'm just glancing at this, the end of section 3. I'm not a tax expert, so, but it indicates that those fees could be collected with the next tax bill. So, I mean, I don't know, I'd have to take a look on it, look at it, because if we tried to get, tried to include in tax bills, are you sure we can't do that?
Well, we could include it, and then if it gets paid, great. What happens, though, is if it goes delinquent to the county, they just take it right off. We're not allowed to roll that up to the county as delinquent.
So what if though?
So, I mean, we could attempt to, we can put anything we want on the tax bill if people pay the bill.
Well, but so, I mean, will it get paid? It'd probably get paid though if it's like my mortgage company just pays the taxes. I'd assume they pay the whole thing then.
Right, but you also got to make sure it's the same owner. What we had in the past was you'd get a sale, you'd find out about it a year later, you send the bill out, in the meantime, it gets sold again, and
Okay.
it's not the new owner's bill. That's where a lot of the non-collection came from. It was actually rare that we would bill it as delinquent, you know, when we found out, and it would be the same owner. Normally it was, like I said, you'd have the second or third owner by the time you realize this person never filed the paperwork.
Okay.
Things have settled down a bit, so, I mean, we could go back into the mode of billing.
Well, why don't we at least table it till next meeting or later then, and maybe do a little follow-up then?
Okay.
Councilman Kleinfeld, or,
Find out on his question.
sure.
I mean, that's, I'm assuming what you meant by that. Okay, we can do that.
What do you
want a
think?
motion?
Sure, okay.
Yeah, that's fine with
Yeah.
me, I just needed more information on it, so.
Do we just want to revisit next meeting, or just wait or do you just want to,
Yeah, that'd be,
next meeting?
yeah.
Okay. All right, then, Madam Mayor, I'll motion to table item B till next meeting about the waiving interest and penalty associated with untimely, not filed property transfer affidavits.
Support.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico,
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld,
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido,
Yes.
Councilmember Owens,
Yes.
Mayor Pixley.
No. Move on to the next item, which is the adoption of Resolution 1845, approving the MDOT contract number 175538. We have a motion.
Madam Mayor, I will make a motion to adopt resolution number 1845, approving MDOT contract number 17-5538 for the construction and auxiliary lane removal work along Highway M3, Gratiot Avenue, and approximately 500 feet south of 9 Mile Road, northerly approximately 500 feet north of 9 Mile Road, including drainage structure and slope restoration work, together with the necessary related work, located within the corporate limits of the city, and authorize the acting city manager to execute the contract on behalf of the city.
Support.
Move and support. Any discussion?
Sure. Mr. Marucci, if we could just, for the public.
Yeah.
It's very wordy.
It is, and it's a strange project because we are only a very, very small portion. But on the, I'll call it the inside lane, the turn lane on Gratiot Avenue, both north and southbound. So you're proceeding north on Gratiot Avenue. As you come up to 9 Mile, the left-hand lane starts south of 9 Mile. This is the one to get into the, so you want to use the first turnaround north of 9 Mile. MDOT wants to get rid of that portion, that fourth lane, which exists south of 9 Mile, in order to tighten the road up. They also want to do the same on southbound Gratiot, where you are north of 9 Mile. The left-hand turn lane begins north of 9 and continues all the way through. They want to eliminate it there. And apparently, and I asked why they wanted to do this, and apparently they had received a communication from the city back in 2012 saying it's hard to cross Gratiot Avenue. So their plan is to eliminate from, in one location it's actually eliminate one lane. But the reason that we're impacted, that if that were just the project, we wouldn't have any cost. We have minimal cost because they also intend on eliminating the right-hand turn lane on northbound Gratiot as you approach 9 Mile. And as you do, they have to create the radius. There's a structure there to maybe some concrete work for 9 Mile, which is our right-of-way. That's why there's minimal cost to us. But in essence, they want to make it simpler, I should say easier and safer to cross Gratiot Avenue by narrowing the width.
So it'd be two less lanes.
On northbound, it'd be 2 less lanes. On southbound, it should be 1 less lane.
Well, no, well, would we just start the lane right after the sidewalk? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Give me where you're thinking
so
of.
if you're going north on Gratiot, we're getting rid of it up to the
Up
light.
to, in essence, where the curb is for the median, it would end there in terms of that the inside turn lane would cease there as you're going north, and what's in place north of 9 Mile may be widened a little bit or changed a little bit, but that's in essence where it's going to begin. As soon as you cross 9 Mile, then you'll move into the left-hand turn lane in order to use the first turnaround.
I'm just saying if you start like 6 feet further, then that sidewalk would be an extra, right? You know what I'm saying? Like be an extra lane.
What do you mean by 6 feet further? Are you talking? Are you talking the right hand?
Sidewalk on each. Does that make sense to anyone else?
No, it doesn't.
I don't understand what
You're
you're
asking
No.
if that sidewalk right next to the flags, if that's going to become wider, basically.
No, because when you're at the flags,
No, it
it'll
wouldn't.
become wider southbound, but not northbound, because northbound, you'll maintain, that's where the left-hand indent will begin, is right where the first island begins north of 9 Mile, and the same as you go southbound.
And then it'll be the reverse.
Exactly. Then so it becomes narrower. The sidewalk will lengthen out southbound on the north side of 9 Mile and northbound on the south side of 9 Mile.
Okay. And then now this wasn't you were saying the right turn, that'll be a separate thing, or is
It's all part of the same project, and that's where our $2,100 cost comes in. If this were strictly the elimination of that lead into the left-hand turn, we would have no cost because it's strictly in the Michigan Department of Transportation right-of-way. But there's a drainage structure right at 9 in Gratiot as you start to eliminate the right-hand turn lane.
No, I mean, the 2,100 is a great deal for sure. I'm not arguing.
No,
that
I
at
understand,
all.
but it's a weird project because I had to have it explained to me. It's like, why are we participating? And that's, again, we knew about the elimination of the inside lane. I wasn't aware until probably about a month and a half ago, and they said, because they approached us, they said, what do you want us to do with the brick pavers? Do you want to extend, as you know, it goes brick pavers, back of curb. And they said, well, we can put more brick pavers in as we eliminate the lane, and the cost for that, I think, was something like $25,000. I said, give me concrete, please.
And then we'll get dinged by all the placemaking people because we don't have pavers in place.
We could,
But the bottom line, no matter what, is it's an MDOT road. You don't have very much control. Once they make up their mind, that's it.
Right, and again, from what I was told from the project engineer, this was something we initiated, apparently. That's what I'm told back in 2012.
Back in 2012, when we were looking to add an additional lane, that was within the DDA. That was the DDA plan.
Okay.
If you go back to the 2010 master plan, there's some pictures of it in there.
Okay. So that's why it's minimal cost. It's for the right-hand turn lane that they'll be touching part of 9 Mile.
Be careful what you ask for.
Right, and again, I guess you can change your mind. It's probably not too late, but I didn't think we wanted to incur a cost of it was about $25,000 for brick pavers to go from Ethelyn Court up to 9 Mile. And I thought, we just don't have that kind of money.
If you go back and look at that, that original design, it was done by Giffords and Webster for the DDA. And they wanted to add a bike lane in there, so they were gonna jazz it up with pavers and all.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine with it as is.
Okay, so do we have a motion on the table?
Yeah.
Motion and second.
Then call the roll.
Councilmember Kleinfeld,
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido,
Yes.
Councilmember Owens,
Yes.
Mayor Pixley,
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico.
Yes.
The next item is the adoption of Resolution 1846, which is the MDOT contract, 17553 for the pedestrian refuge island construction work at the intersection of 9 Mile and Gratiot, and at the intersection of 9 Mile Road and Virginia. And you know that we worked on this, creating these refuge islands, because we had so many pedestrians that were walking across the street to the court. And then we also had problems with a lot of the senior citizens that come from Chester Berry, and it was a long way to walk across the street, so we were trying to protect both groups. But I found out that this had never gone through public safety. They had never reviewed it, and there's some concern. So I'm wondering whether we want to table it and have it go, have the public safety officers review it. Because their police cars have to come out all the time.
Right.
And the fire engines, and the police cars have to come straight out, and particularly if they have to turn left, I think there might be some problems. So I don't want to refuse it, but I think, or turn it down, but I think that maybe we need to have them, public safety, review it.
Yeah, I'm fine with, I didn't realize that public safety hadn't looked at it.
I
but,
did not either, but I found that out.
Yeah, I'm happy to table it, to have it reviewed. Would, by the next meeting, be,
Let's make our attempt for that. That we'll plan for the first meeting in February. We have a 5-week month, so that should allow us an opportunity to do
Would
it.
that give you enough time?
Madam Mayor, we use the Traffic Improvement Association to do traffic studies. They usually take about 30 days.
Okay.
So we'll try for the first meeting, but we'll bring it to you as soon as we have information.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
So I need a motion to table?
yeah.
If I could, can I ask one quick question before assuming we did it, would you be able to then cross at Virginia? Was that the plan? Like if it
Yes.
was- Right, so that
There's
it'd be
an
like,
island there.
it'd be mostly a curb and then indent for, or like you could cut through as a sidewalk. or
But there
a-
wasn't gonna be a light there, traffic light.
Correct.
It was still would have been an illegal crossing there, technically.
It's a refuge island. A
Well,
large-
It would
Okay.
be just like in
Be a state.
Ferndale on 9 Mile.
Or in Clawson on 14.
Yeah, or at U of M Dearborn, I was gonna ask they sit a little,
They sit high
in
and
the
the
mi-
walk is low.
well, not the refuge island itself, but where I've seen other islands, they have then on the dotted line in between the two lanes, a little plastic thing, with, saying pedestrian cross here. There's no light, but then people, you're supposed to slow down a little bit. I didn't know if that was then the plan with this.
That was the design, but I think there was just some concern about the police cars coming out and taking a left right there, and maybe
Sure.
we needed to shift the position a little.
Okay. If that's the case, then yeah, I like that.
Madam Mayor, I will make a motion to table for 2 weeks to start, I suppose. MDOT contract number 155553 until our next
Our
meeting.
next meeting.
It's actually, yeah, next meeting, because we have a 5-week month, so actually 3 weeks, we're 3 weeks away.
Oh, okay. Well, next regularly scheduled meeting.
Exactly. That will be our attempt.
And
Support?
Support. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Kleinfeld,
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido,
Yes.
Councilmember Owens,
Yes.
Mayor Pixley,
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico.
Yes.
Item E is the adoption of resolutions 1847, City of Eastpointe transfer of 8 Mile Road Community Center to the Recreational Authority of Roseville and Eastpointe. This is the third time I've done this. Why are we doing it again?
Apparently, between Christmas and New Year's, as they were attempting to close on the community center, a title search by the buyer found that there was an improper transfer from, I'll call it the city, which could either be the building authority or the city, to RARE. They said it wasn't done properly. They said that it was done from, I believe, Rich, the building authority to RARE, and it should have been done from the city to RARE. Again, it came up at the last minute again, while we were trying to have a December 31st closing.
I don't understand that. Why would it have been in the building authority? Because that building has not been in the building authority since at least 2005. Because we defeased all that way back.
I think you're right. I mean,
when we initiated this transfer when we created RARE, we transferred it once, and then we transferred it again not too long ago.
yeah, BSNA shows, 2008, Building Authority transferred it to the city, and then 12 city to RARE. So
and the
that's why
building authority didn't
my question.
own it? Maybe because we defeased the bonds? Because
Yeah, we
When-
paid it off or something.
I remember when we came in and Sue was finance director, and we defeased the bonds that included part of the community center and the court and the old city hall.
Right, I remember the defeasement of the bond, but as far as title work, excuse me, I wouldn't have been involved in any of that at that time, so
But what I'm saying is if you defease the bonds
it should have been transferred from the building authority to the city.
to the city and then,
Right.
okay. All right.
So to clarify, we own it right now, right? Well, have title.
I don't know what happened to the last time we did this.
Yeah.
I was gonna, in light of that, I was gonna make just a suggestion regarding the fifth whereas. I was gonna suggest that it say, whereas title to the community center located at 16435 8 Mile Road, Eastpointe, Michigan 48021 is presently held by the city of Eastpointe.
Oh, okay, as opposed to the building.
Just so there isn't any additional confusion going forward.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Could even throw an or in there. No.
I think there's enough whereases.
Okay, who's gonna make the motion?
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 1847, which would approve the transfer of the community center from the city of Eastpointe to the Recreational Authority of Roseville and Eastpointe, according to the Articles of Incorporation, with the one amendment to the fifth whereas, striking Eastpointe Building Authority, and in its place, City of Eastpointe.
Sport.
What, Mr. City Attorney, wasn't there an early one where you said the title to the community?
That's just,
Same,
it would read, the fifth whereas, the
Right.
proposed whereas would read, whereas title to the community center, and
That's
then
what I
the
thought.
rest of it, and then City of Eastpointe as opposed to Eastpointe Building Authority.
is the maker and the support okay with that first?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine with me.
Support.
Okay, please call the roll.
Councilmember Kleinfeld,
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico,
Yes.
Councilmember Owens,
Yes.
Mayor Pixley,
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido.
Yes.
Item F, the approval of the agreement for the Macomb County Animal Control Services.
I'm
Any
ready to-
comments on this? Questions?
I already emailed out my comments, so.
I never saw 'em.
Oh, I just, the county approved 4 separate agreements for other cities in our area, and they were all identical. Essentially, I wanted to check to make sure that we were being treated similarly to the communities around us, so, and we are, so it's a good thing.
Okay,
Madam Mayor, I motion to approve the agreement for Macomb County Animal Control Services and authorize the acting city manager to execute all necessary documents related to this agreement.
Support.
move to support.
I did have one item when I was talking to Acting Director Kaiser. Do we need to possibly review the TNR policy then? We're approving it in this agreement, but you were talking about possibly making an ordinance change?
Yes, I've spoken with the city attorney, and we believe we could change the ordinance to be in compliance with the TNR requirement very easily.
Okay. All right, and then it's, of course, Mr. Albright, fine to approve this now and then later do the,
I spoke with Deputy Chief Kaiser, Acting Chief Kaiser, and yeah, it's a simple fix to just amend the language with one sentence of the current ordinance. That won't be a problem. I can get that done and bring it before the next council meeting.
sounds good.
Mr. Albright, will there have to be a change with respect to provision number 5 and acceptance of the Macomb County dog license as well?
Ordinance change, you're saying?
Yeah, my belief is that, my belief is they'll have to be done. So, and knowing that you'll agree to that provision as well, that we'll have to accept the Macomb County dog license for people who go there and pick up their dog. So,
Yeah, that's a simple fix as well.
that's what I thought, but it's a policy change and something you should be aware of, so.
I know those licenses in St. Clair Shores, you have to get them from the county as opposed from the local.
Oh, so they don't license locally any longer, okay.
They're rich. They don't need all that revenue.
Plus they make their people go out and get a license.
Okay, so we have a motion and support, correct?
Yes.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
So our next item is the purchase of new laptops for elections.
Madam Mayor, I'll motion to waive competitive bidding requirements due to no advantage to the city, and approve the purchase of 14 laptop computers for elections in the amount of $10,346, with an additional $2,018.94 for a 3-year extended warranty service agreement for a total of $12,364.94.
Support.
Move and support. Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
And just to let council know, we're probably going to have to use these in May. We just got notified that the Macomb Community College will be voting tomorrow on putting some kind of proposal on the May election.
And that'll be the sole item on the.
That'll be the sole item.
And what will we be doing with the old ones?
We will recycle them. At this point, I have 2 of them that have completely collapsed. They aren't even functioning. The old ones are so antiquated. They're from 2007. They can't even load Windows 10.
Okay, do we ever recycle those and give them to the schools or anything like that?
I can talk to the schools, but they have better stuff than these are. Honestly, these things, they kind of get abused because you can't use them for anything else. So you use them, you charge them, then they sit. And you do that to it long enough, it starts to wear and tear on the unit itself. I'm surprised we got this far with the units. But I'll check. Mr. Latham is their technology person who I know, and he works with me on elections.
Okay.
There are some groups that just take old computers, even older than that. Maybe I'll see about that, email you.
And
Okay.
I certainly am glad you're not trying to put 10 on any of the computers, because everybody I know that's trying to use their older computer with Windows 10, it's crashing.
We did attempt it, and it was a catastrophe, and that was the March election for the presidential. Luckily, it was a low turnout, but I had 3 units that started shutting themselves up off and on with 10 on them, and we immediately went back to 7.
Somebody just told me they had a computer that was a year old, and they put Windows 10 in, and it just crashed, and they took it in, and they said, we'll just give you a brand-new computer.
Yeah, they can't, these older ones can't handle them.
It's not good news. Why don't we go ahead and do the beautification appointments while we're trying to set up the Skype?
Sure.
So these are people that I would like to nominate for beautification. One is Clarence Duran, who's over there. in the corner. Clarence, you want to raise your hand? He volunteered, he volunteered to be on beautification, and the other one was Tanya Gladney, both of whom ran for office. So one term expires 12/31/18, and the other one, the term expires 12/31/19. Peggy Sweeney also, her term expired, and I did send her an email today. So she'd like to be renewed for her term to expire on 12/31/20. So if you followed me, you understand that we're only nominating 2 people, and there's 3, so we're short one more person. So Cardi and Sarah, that's your job to find one other person. for
We've been
beautif-
trying.
For beautification.
Anyone in the audience?
Here.
All right,
So, to be clear, you wanted to fill all 3 with Peggy, that makes 3?
no.
Well,
One term to expire 12/31/18. That can be Clarence or Tanya, and the other one, a term to expire 12/31/19.
well, she's just saying that Peggy's renewed. We had 3 openings, so just 2 new people. That's
Gotcha.
all. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
We need one more.
Well, I will make a motion to confirm Mayor Pixley's appointments with Clarence to beautification, with Clarence Duran's term to expire 12/31/19 and Tonya Gladney's term to expire 12/31/18.
Support.
And
Oh.
Sweeney,
One more.
renewal.
Peggy Sweeney.
And to renew Peggy Sweeney's with the term to expire 12/31/20.
Support.
Move and support. Please call the roll.
How many sports and how many motions?
Oh, mine counts.
Your support counts? Okay. Thank you.
We didn't want our clerk to fall asleep over there.
I'm already trying to figure out how I'm setting you up in the next session here. Councilmember Kleinfeld,
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico,
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido,
Yes.
Councilmember Owens,
Yes.
Mayor Pixley.
Yes. So,
Our plan is to set you back up down here, so we're gonna try to set up the Skype with the next applicant and get that going. We did test today and it did work, but I think it would be easier, so I'm gonna steal your microphones up there, get you all set up, and then we'll go with it. We have called him to let him know you're about ready.
So, Madam Mayor, we'll just essentially take a 5-minute intermission then, I guess.
okay,
Is that-
unless you
okay.
want to do the payroll and bills
No, I
while
think
we're waiting? No, let's go do the Skype.
You need them all?
Oh.
I was just like.
Work on Saturday from North Carolina, but then the one for California, he couldn't get it working his side. Okay. But on our side, we could see the gentleman from North Carolina, he couldn't see us, but I didn't know that we were all. Then all of a sudden, he made the comment, well, I can't see this walking. And we're looking at each other going, okay, we've been here for 45 minutes, the first thing we heard. So I said, because I've never done this. I obviously didn't hit the right button, so that's why I brought my IT guy. I don't feel confident I still know what I'm doing. This was a matter of just clicking on the wrong button, not knowing what you're looking for. We didn't get to practice. We were supposed to practice on Fridays. We call, hey, we're ready to Skype, and we go, yeah, I'm not next to my computer. That doesn't do he was having problems on his end, not ours, so he kind of worked that out 2 years. Yeah.
I brought my book.
Test 1, 2.
Well, my name
Do you rap and do comedy too?
I can. But yeah, I went out to Wigs for Kids a couple of years ago to, actually I wanted to help them raise money doing
Yeah.
comedy. And then I was going to actually have one of the kids do comedy too.
Oh, okay.
You know, so at their own fundraiser. So I never got to go back up there because I
Okay.
think I had just started the police academy.
Okay.
So yeah. So
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I
Maybe
would
you
like
can
them
do
to-
that. Maybe we can cut Alyssa's hair off at the fundraiser.
yeah, right.
I think hers is long now. I'm not positive, but
Yeah.
it's getting long. She
That
used to
one-
have it real short, you know.
Yeah, it's long now.
Shorter than yours.
Yeah, she sure did. Because I want to actually have the kids actually be part of the town at their own fundraiser.
Rec center, when I
You
saw
know,
that, I had,
you know, I think they would have fun doing that.
Dan, can you hear it?
I sure can.
Can you see it?
No, not yet. Now I can. There you are.
Okay.
Voila.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm Mary Pixley in the city of Eastpointe, and over here on my one side, which would be reversed, is Sarah
Okay.
Lucido.
Hello.
Who is a councilwoman, and on my right side is Mike Kleinfeld, and he's our mayor pro tem. And then over on the other table to the right is Monique Owens, who's our newly elected city council person, and next to her is Cardi DeMonico, who's Cardi has been with us, despite his young looks, about 4 years now. We're very happy that you agreed to do Skype with us. It makes it pretty easy, hopefully for you as well as for us, because we can see your face and we can hear your voice.
Thank you. Mayor, I might ask, is it possible for them to maybe turn the volume just up a little bit? You know, can they do that?
I think they can.
Okay.
Can you hear me better? Maybe I
Yes.
was too far from the microphone.
Okay.
What we'd like for you to do, the way the process that we set up, is we'd like for you to talk maybe 5-10 minutes and give us some idea of your background, where you've been, what your goals are, et cetera. And then each one of us will ask 2 questions, and if we have some time after that, and we probably will, we'd like you to think of maybe some questions you might have about the city of Eastpointe.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm a seasoned and experienced city manager. I have 25 plus years executive leadership and management experience. My background includes previously managing 3 cities, ranging in population from a small community of a little over 3,100 to a metro area community of over 55,000 population. All these cities were full service communities, which also included utility systems. I prepared and administered budgets ranging from $25 to $80 million a year. I led from 65 to over 500 employees. And I had anywhere from 13 to 9 direct report department heads that I supervised. I'm in transition at this period, not too much different than your recently retired city manager. I'm at that point in my career, I'm in transition, and I am looking to start a next chapter in my career. I love city management, and I want to be able to continue in public service and city management for some time. Being in city management and in transition, though, the communities that I've managed in the past, for me, I've always looked at 3 pretty basic, but for me, very important criteria. And I looked at communities that, in terms of their past, present, and future, I looked to see if a community had a rich tradition and history and past that continued to unite the community and that's continued to be woven into its social fabric as well as its identity and brand. In terms of the present, I've looked to see communities that have progressed and have moved forward, as opposed to a community that maybe has chosen to rest on past accomplishments, or even worse, a community maybe where there's been apathy or it's regressed. I've looked at communities that do the elected officials, community leaders, and citizens work collectively together to move the community forward, to create a stable, vibrant, and progressive community. And in many cases, that can be looked at in terms of the attributes, population, as well as economic development. Those are various criteria that would play into that for me. Again, I look for communities that clearly have been working to stabilize and move themselves forward, as opposed to just to sit back and let things happen. And future, I've looked at communities that are forward-looking and strategically planning to continually progress, move forward, and ideally achieve higher levels. And so communities that, for me, that have been relatively strong in those areas are communities that I've managed, and that being in transition, I've looked at as communities then that would be, what I feel would be a good fit for me, a good challenge, and that I could also come and be a good fit for them. In terms of my background, again, having an extensive career in city management, I have very strong degree of experience and strength in all the core competencies that the International City Management Association holds out to be essential for being a credentialed manager. I became one of the first credentialed city managers for ICMA back when the program started in 2003, and I've maintained my credentialing ever since then through 360 assessments and continuing education and development. I think that's very critical for someone in my role. And so I feel I'm very strong in those core competencies. And I know some of the things that you're looking for. Obviously, you're looking for someone with experience in budgeting, capital planning, budget management, project management and execution, personnel administration, and interpersonal communication. Those are all areas that I, over the years, have striven to enhance my strengths and abilities in all of those areas. But I'm also strong in a number of other areas that I feel are very pertinent to you. I'm very experienced in labor negotiations, dealing with collective bargaining, negotiating consulting service agreements, as well as intergovernmental contracts. I've had a lot of experience in grant administration, both CDBG, brownfield grants, as well as grants for solid waste management and recycling. I've a lot of experience in strategic capital improvement planning. Also, master land use planning updates, which of course are critical for setting the vision and future roadmap for any city's growth and development. And so I've had a lot of experience in all of the key areas that are pertinent to a well-run city managed city. And I am very strong in maintaining a relationship with ICMA in those areas.
Sounds great. So we'd like to move on to some of our questions, and I'm going to start first with Sarah Lucido. Each one of us will ask 2 questions.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, how are you this evening?
Just fine.
My first question would be, in the past, can you name a career mistake that you may have made and how you've learned from it?
Well, I've learned that you never want to take for granted doing the very best you can in utilizing all avenues to solicit public input on key issues. In the past, I had found that a key area was assuming that just through holding public meetings on a particular issue, whether it be budget or any particular community issue, that strictly by holding meetings and relying upon public input at those meetings, that gives you a strong feel and gauge for really what the community feels maybe should be done in those areas. I found that I need to really utilize all methods of soliciting input and engagement. And obviously with technology and having the ability to do online surveys as well as YouTube and webinars to solicit additional information, I found that that was critical to utilize all methods and not be too narrow on how you solicit public input, so that you get a complete picture of what your community actually feels on these particular issues. And early on, found that I took too narrow of a communication process and realized that it would have been better to use a much broader and comprehensive way of soliciting input.
All right. And then my second question is, if an employee came into your office and complained that someone was making them feel uncomfortable with inappropriate sexual advances, how would you handle the situation?
Well, that's something that as an employer and a city manager, and you never take for granted. That's very serious, and it needs to be given very quick response and review. If it clearly was a situation where it was an immediate supervisor or department head, I would take steps to clearly remove that individual from that particular environment at that point in time, so that there would not be the opportunity for any additional situation to arise of that nature. It clearly would warrant a very thorough and prompt review and investigation to determine if, in fact, there was merit. And if there was merit, it is something that requires very quick, responsive action, whether it be potential removal of a supervisor or department head. It's not necessarily the right way to reassign an employee if there is a factual basis for it, because that may put them into a work environment and work situation that they're uncomfortable with or not able to succeed in. But it's something that is not dismissed and has to be proactively addressed to make sure the proper actions are taken to eliminate that situation, and also to prevent it and send a message throughout the organization that that type of conduct will not be tolerated as a city and as an employer.
All right, thank you.
And we'll move on to Mayor Pro Tem Michael Kleinfeld.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right. My first question is, what do you view, or how do you view the role of council versus city manager? And could you give examples of time or when you believe the authority of city manager would be overstepped and the authority of the council would be overstepped by administration?
Well, you know, there's always that a little bit of defining the roles, but clearly the city council is the legislative and policy-making authority of the city. My role as city manager is to implement policy directives, also to execute the organizational vision and strategies that are collectively arrived at between administration and city council and mayor. I obviously have the responsibility, though, of interpreting policy directives that come from the council. Definitely to make sure that I have as clear an understanding of those directives as possible, and then to, though, promptly and effectively carry those out. There are times where it does require interpretation on the part of a city manager. There can be times that it may be overinterpreted or underinterpreted. And those situations can arise, and at that point in time, I'm obviously always open and expect any clear communication or guidance from the council if that does occur. But my job is to make sure I do understand what the directive is and to carry it out to the best of my ability. If I have questions, though, it's my responsibility though, to make sure that I get that clarity from the council, and not second guess or just shoot from the hip. So again, my role clearly is to carry out your directives, to carry out operations, policies, and procedures, but also to make sure they're in line with what the directives are of the council.
Thank you. Would you be able to give any examples of when you think council is overstepping the authority of administration and when administration might be overstepping the authority of council?
Well, I guess probably an example, maybe council overstepping would be sometimes in the area of obviously management and personnel. If a council member or council were to give directions or step in to give directions as to how a department should operate, or a department head or employee, that clearly would be overstepping bounds. Clearly, if I was not involved. I guess that becomes kind of micromanaged on the part of the city council. And so that's clearly something that would be, create a problem. It creates, for one thing, it creates confusion on the part of staff, because they're obviously uncomfortable as to, not ignoring something coming from the council, but also knowing that maybe that is the way it should be happening. In terms of me overstepping, or the city management would be, again, me taking upon myself to issue a policy directive that clearly would fall in the area of policy making and council prerogative. It's my responsibility to develop and implement procedures for how work's done and carried out, but it's clearly not my role to make public policy rules or regulations that are legislative.
Thank you. And I agree. I think the key words you use are policy versus like personnel or administration.
That's correct.
So the last thing I want to ask was, how much importance do you place on employee morale, and how do you keep your finger on the pulse with that?
Well, employee morale is critical. And as both a leader and a manager, that's critically important. As a leader, I try to take a supportive and motivating leadership style and be a morale builder. I seek to build a working relationship at all levels of the organization. It's my duty to create morale by motivating and inspiring employees, by understanding their needs and understanding what motivates them to succeed in not only accomplishing individual, team, departmental, and organizational goals. So I need to provide, obviously, the development of the tools for them to succeed in performing their duties. I take a focus on developing and ideally building strong teams of employees, and by doing that, you have to support their development in both their skills, knowledge, position them ideally to progress within the organization. I've been a good example is in the state I'm in now, the first city to develop and implement a formal employee succession plan. And that plan was predicated on the basis of developing internal talent, and when necessary, recruiting outside talent, but recruiting inside talent, developing internal talent to position them to take on ever more challenging and essential roles within an organization. As we know, demographics being what they are, we're faced with retirements. Sometimes we're faced with turnover due to competition in the labor market. And so employee development is critical. I'm very supportive, especially of my department heads, on being involved in professional organizations, having all the necessary training and credentialing that they need to be successful in their positions. If they're successful, I'm successful, and if I'm successful, you're successful. So all that is critical that go hand in hand.
All right, thank you.
And the next person is our Councilwoman Monique Owens.
Hi, good evening. How are you? Can you hear me? Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. My first question is to tell me about a time when you had to overcome a major obstacle that stood in the way of you accomplishing a goal or commitment.
Well, a major challenge that I encountered is, and especially when we're talking about labor negotiations, a city I last managed had 6 unions. And one of the major initiatives that I had implemented within that particular city was performance management. And performance management being where, in place of a subjective evaluation system where all employees, including myself, had measurable and objective performance standards, which aligned with the city's strategic and financial priorities. And I was not as difficult implementing it in the non-unionized part of the city workforce, but in the negotiating labor contracts and interjecting performance management into labor agreements, it was very challenging. Because, for instance, in police, public safety, in many cases, public works, those are areas of city government that are very tenure-driven when it comes to evaluations and compensation. And I faced a considerable initial amount of pushback, first from various labor unions of agreeing to performance management-based compensation and evaluations within their collective bargaining agreements. I overcame it by the fact that the plan that I had developed was very clear and the merits of it were very clear, and it became a matter of educating them as to what the benefits would be to go and to agree to a performance management system. That in fact, they would be much better off, both from evaluation being measurable and objective standards versus subjective and trait-based, as well as just tenure-based increases where everybody got the same thing regardless of the work they did. And it was not market-based compensation or increases. I was able to show them that the merits of that system, they would be in a far better position. And not only as a union, but explaining that to their members. And through an education process and hand-holding and building trust between myself and the collective bargaining units, they came around and saw the benefits of a performance management system. And ultimately, all 6 of those unions, 2 police, 2 fire, middle management, and public works, all consented, and we had ratified agreements that had complete incorporated performance-based compensation evaluations in every union contract. But it was very difficult because there was some mistrust from prior administrations and getting them to see the merit of the system.
Okay. My next question is, you said you have worked at 3 different cities, correct?
That's correct.
City manager. Yes. So now the things that you've done there and seeing the things that we're doing here for our city, and you might see some things that you can bring to the city of Eastpointe. What are some of those things that you believe you can bring to the city of Eastpointe with your experience as a former city manager?
Well, I probably touched on one that I'm a very strong believer in performance management. In terms of performance optimization and continued process improvement on the part of the city and our operations, that system has a strong record of success. Because again, employees know how they're being measured. In most cases, they want to not only meet, but they want to exceed their performance standards and objectives for obviously both compensation, but also because there is a sense of satisfaction in doing so. I think performance management would be something that I would see that would be beneficial for the city of Eastpointe. I know that you've done quite a bit in capital improvement planning. Strategic planning is also critical, and I know you've done some strategic planning. But I think CIPs in conjunction with capital strategic planning is really critical in order to set, a vision, mission, and strategic priorities for the city. I know that, for instance, obviously, it ties into financial priorities. You've done a lot in the way of capital improvements, which is very laudable over the last few years. But it's critical that all of those align and incorporate to support one another within the moving forward of the city. You've come a long ways in your budgeting and your financial position. I know you've received a number of recognition in terms of the Certificate of Excellence, Certification of Excellence in Financial Reporting, your budget presentation and development. I don't know all the inner workings of your budgeting. I've been a very strong advocate of a blended budget philosophy that's a priority zero-based budgeting management system that basically aligns the essential needs of the city, service needs of the city, with the city's strategic and capital planning priorities. Also, comprehensive long-range economic and financial forecasting, as well as, and I mentioned earlier where I found the need to broadly solicit public input, of actually soliciting clear public input as to what the community's priorities are. In other words, everybody wants everything. But clearly, citizens are our priorities, and there are things that they want and they're willing to pay for. And sometimes that allows you in times where things become tight, and every city is going to continue to face strong financial challenges. There's never going to be enough revenue to address all the needs, and it's always going to be a prioritization thing. But meshing the city's strategic priorities and capital improvement priorities with strong public input helps assure that we continue to have support from the public, that we are in fact funding the priorities that they truly feel are essential for their needs. So priorities-based and zero-based budgeting, I think, would be a plus. Again, I don't know how much you've done on that. That's something I would want to look at. I'm also a strong one on continually assessing operations, looking for ways to identify inefficiencies or opportunities for greater efficiencies, to continually hone and optimize the performance of employees and our operations. So those are all areas that I would want to address or make sure that we were doing a good job of. There's also some things in the way of city transparency and communication with the public. I've been involved in putting in place what's called an open data portal, which is a portal that's public in access with key metrics and data for the public. And it's something that lends itself, whether it be financial information and public service information, to facilitate open communication and city transparency. You do have a very good website, though I know you've redone in recent years, so I will laud you on that. I think there's a lot of good information. There may be a few things that I had trouble navigating and I had trouble finding, but those are all things that you hone.
Well, thank you. I think the people who put that together would appreciate that comment. I think I'm done. Thank you.
All right. Hello, Mr. Berlowitz. Hope
Yes.
you can hear me there. How's your wedding over the weekend?
It was good. It was in another state that was warmer than the one I left. And by the way, I do appreciate Mayor and Council you for accommodating that personal commitment I had. It was one I couldn't get out of, so I do appreciate you working with me on that.
Oh, sure. We completely understand. My first question was, what's one accomplishment in your professional career you've been proud of?
Well, you know, I had an accomplishment that may not be huge, but for me it was important. The last city I managed in the state that I managed it in, communities could achieve a formal state certification as a economic development certified community, which was like having something on your resume that says you're a community that's positioned and open for economic development or open for business. You're a community that businesses want to grow in or they want to come to. And this last city I managed was the third largest city in that state, the largest city with a city manager, but one of very few cities that had not achieved that certification. And I had had a couple other cities I had managed smaller that had already achieved that. And to me, that did not look good for the city. And I was puzzled. And I found out that the process had started some years before and it floundered because the prior city administration wasn't working with the Chamber of Commerce or the Local Development Corporation collectively to get it done. They were kind of posturing and there was territorialism. And it just was a breakdown in collective effort. And I made it a goal of mine to get it done. And through aggressively championing the process to bring all the parties together, and it took a lot of work. There was a lot of work that had to be done to prove to the state that, in fact, we were ready and we had done what we needed to do with infrastructure, with economic development initiatives, strategic planning, etc. And I was able to, with a long overdue process, to get that accomplished. The city received from the state a formal certification that we were now a economically developed certified community. We now had it on our resume because when you're recruiting, you're retaining, etc., those are all essential things. You know, when someone's looking at Eastpointe or they're looking at another city, they're looking to see, do you have all your ducks lined up? You know, do you have everything in place for them to succeed if they make that investment and commitment to your community? And it was a very arduous process. It was very time consuming, and I had to do, unfortunately, sometimes some pushing and shoving. I won't say head knocking, but getting people's attention to sit down and work together among entities to get that done. And ultimately, that city, the third largest city in that state, ended up getting it accomplished. And that was something I felt really good about because it was long overdue, and it may not have ever been accomplished had we not pushed it.
Good. That sounds great. And my second question was, how do you view the role of technology in municipal government?
I'm sorry, what?
How do you view the role of technology in municipal government?
Well, I think I mentioned a little earlier that regarding putting in place an open data portal, you know, providing data and information to the public, easily accessible to not only citizens, but, you know, community organizations, other entities within the community. I think it's critical on that. It's, you know, anywhere from your financial management systems to your community engagement systems to, again, even community economic development. All of that has to leverage technology because if not, you're going to be behind the game. And again, just like I mentioned, having been you know, a certification in economic development, if you're trying to retain and expand business, trying to recruit business, you're trying to, you might say, bolster your organizations, your educational institutions, etc. All of those things are critical, and if technology is not kept up to date, if you actually should have a strategic IT plan, not just an economic development plan, but a strategic technology plan. So that way, along with your CIP, your streets and your sidewalks and utility systems, that for technology, you also have a strategic plan for it. So that way, you're ahead of the game. You've identified the systems that can take you where you need to be. You can budget for those systems. and you can get them in place because, as we all know, there's a learning curve. And new technology requires a lot of education and training of your people in order to effectively use those systems. So it's extremely important all across the board within the city government.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
So, Mr. Berlowitz, I have a couple of questions also.
Sure.
The first one is about communication patterns, and I know you've briefly touched on this, but we all know that as a city manager, you have the top role. You have a lot of people that you have to deal with on a daily basis. So some of those people are your department heads, some of them are your employees. You also mentioned about the community, and then there's the city council. So what I'd like for you to maybe explain to me, how do you communicate on a routine basis with your staff, your employees, and with your department heads, and then your community and your council?
Well, I'll probably maybe start at the top and work our way through the organization. First of all, city council. For me, I try to develop a strong relationship coming in with the city council that's based upon a partnership philosophy, mutual respect, mutual trust, regular and open communication, and also equal treatment of all councilmen. Because I know sometimes that can become concerned that everyone's being given the same degree of communication. I try to, with the city council, I try to utilize all strategies and methods, whether it be email, whether it be phone call, whether it be one-on-one, or whether it be small group meetings with council members. With individual council members, I try to tailor my method of communication to their individual preference for interacting. Some council members may prefer email, some may prefer a phone call, some may prefer a one-on-one. And so I try to tailor it to them. That way they receive their information. I guess it's more effective in terms of my communicating with them. In terms of whether, and this probably will relate to staff as well, but I do, and it's nothing rocket science, I do try to maintain an open door policy. Unless I'm in a important meeting or an important phone call, I always try to make myself available to meet with a council member or members. And if I can, I always make sure I get back to them by phone or communication that same day. And same way with staff. Now with staff, I'll get into that in a little bit. It's maybe a little bit different open door communication on that. But I also try to make sure that, for instance, if there's a press release, that the city council gets it in advance before ever going out, because that way there's no surprises, catching anybody by surprise. I think it's very important. And of course, there's the normal communication process. It just along with the agenda material research that comes with your council meeting packets and having all the information you need in order to make sound policy decisions. But I try to be very responsive and timely in my communication with the council. Again, also, I will use a phone call or email to communicate with the council if there's a crisis issue or an important issue that rises or anything politically sensitive. That immediately there's communication with the council on that. So that's how I try to, in terms of routine communications with the council. In terms of the staff, with department heads, I hold weekly management team meetings with all my department heads to not only have everybody understand what's going on that week, to be able to identify where maybe we need to work together among department lines, utilize our resources better, but also as an opportunity to discuss issues, address problems in those meetings collectively. I'm a participatory team philosophy manager, okay? On that, I value the input of my directors and their thoughts on how we should approach things, and I have to make the decision. I value their input. I also hold bi-weekly meetings with each department head, okay? Now, these meetings are structured. They can be 15 minutes, they can be a half hour, an hour. It allows me a one-on-one time with each department head to address any issues that concerns they have, they need my guidance input on, or that I need to address an issue with them. And so it's a one-on-one. It also allows to deal with budget issues, personnel issues, etc. So it allows for a one-on-one opportunity to assure that things don't slip through the cracks. In addition to an open door, I do try to make myself available to department heads. If I'm available, I will meet with them on that. I do have to manage my time. So, I do try to make sure I utilize it well. And so those weekly meetings, bi-weekly meetings with management staff are very important. With the rank and file, I make a point of getting out and around as best I can. I like to visit job sites. I like to visit projects. I like to go to departments. I like to interact with staff, to sit on staff meetings and I do expect department heads to hold staff meetings within their department. They need to disseminate the information from management meetings down through the organization so people understand why things are happening or what's happening on that, and they need to rely upon their staff. So I try to get out and around as frequently as possible. Sometimes it's not always easy what's going on, but I do try to connect on site with various departments. There are also times, I believe, in all department or city meetings. It's a little difficult sometimes, depending on what's going on. I've done it where we'll work it out where certain departments will be in one section of meeting and same information and another group at another. So we don't interrupt city services. But so that way we're able to have it take place. There's times when new things come out. Council, you issue new policies, new personnel things come out. They need to understand. Again, we talked about sexual harassment. Those are critical policies that employees need to be aware of and need to be re-educated on all the time. So I believe in those meetings. I believe in also utilizing webinars, etc., for training of employees, but also for making sure there's consistent communication throughout the organization. It's best because there's nothing worse than having the rank and file feeling disengaged and not understanding how the work they do helps accomplish those big picture strategies and priorities of the city. So that's really critical. So those all come to play. I know you do your city magazine publication. Those are things that are important, I think, that allow not for communication with the public, but also internal. Allows for dissemination of information. So again, communicate. That's critical. The public. Like I said, you're doing a good job on your website of various initiatives. I know you have some great things going on with some of your boards and commissions, your Beautification committee, adopt a flower bed, your street tree programs, all those things, and also soliciting encourage participation from the citizenry to be volunteers on those boards and commissions. That's really essential on that. But I think also, again, your publication that you put out on that, I know it can be sometimes, it can be a little difficult to keep up on those things and do a good job on that. But I think anyway, we can communicate through, again, Facebook and Twitter. Those are accounts that can be used for effective communication. As well as just your website, your homepage. But I think it's important that the city has to reach out, potentially neighborhood association meetings. For me, another way of communicating with the public is I like to be out and meeting with civic groups and community organizations, having an opportunity to speak to them, to attend their meetings. I try to be very involved in civic groups myself. I'm a Kiwanian, and I've been very active in that particular organization, but I believe it's really important, and not only myself attending meetings of these groups and speaking to them on just city activities, but also I think it's important that department directors have a face as well. They need to be out there as well, visible with the community, communicating.
Thank you. So now to go back to something that you previously said, you were talking about a redevelopment committees. So in the state of Michigan, we do have something called Redevelopment Ready Communities, RRC. And you might have seen on our Facebook page or on our website that Eastpointe was one of the first communities in the state to get that designation. And tonight we were informed that we were one of 2 communities to be recertified after 3 years, which is quite an honor.
Congratulations.
I mean, that's a big thing in the state of Michigan. So if you look at the city of Eastpointe, we're only 5.2 square miles, and we're about 99% developed. So when you're talking redevelopment, that's a big target, and I'm wondering what type of tools if you've gone through that redevelopment process, what type of tools would you use to come up with a plan for redevelopment, and how would you set that up?
Well, without knowing the lay of the land, clearly, I realize that you're primarily a single-family residential developed community. Obviously, there aren't a lot of areas for, quote, probably new development. Probably it becomes more for redevelopment, but I guess it becomes assessing the community in terms of, are there areas, though, within that 5.1 square mile area that clearly are prime targets or looking very seriously at what the opportunities for redevelopment of them would be. First of all, you have to determine, depending on where they're at, what type of redevelopment. Is it commercial, industrial redevelopment, small commercial, small business. And then it becomes more or less determining, it's kind of like a strategic economic development plan. Looking at the various areas that might be amiable and would be valid for redevelopment. What are the type of redevelopment uses that are fitting in with your master land use plan? Clearly, you need to be consistent with that plan, because cities get themselves in trouble when they sometimes get into development and it doesn't match with what their planning has been. But again, if there's areas that are best for a commercial redevelopment or kind of a downtown redevelopment, what are the tools that are most applicable to carrying out that redevelopment on that? Some states, utilize tax incremental finance for redevelopment. Okay, that's strictly where if you have an area that maybe is either run down or it needs to be looking for revitalization, where the value of the land redevelopment is frozen, and there's ability to issue financing to do redevelopment, and the increased value from the frozen value, pre-developed value, to the final development value, the increase in revenues from property taxes basically just goes to pay off the improvements that were made to carry out the redevelopment. And there's those types of potential tools. There are obviously tools that become available through community development block grant programs that may be applicable for community development, redevelopment. And there in some cases even some federal financing that can be brought to bear, whether it be grants, low interest loans as well. But again, I would say is you would pinpoint those areas that are ripe for redevelopment or in need of redevelopment, and then from there identify the type of redevelopment that would best fit for the community, because whatever you do, it needs to fit with what the for the community, what the community feels it supports. And then from there, identifying the tools that you can plug in that would help carry that redevelopment out. It can vary depending on whether it's commercial or industrial development. You either get an SBA type situations with those type of small business assistance programs. Again, I want to look at all the tools, but also tailor them to the areas that are, you might say, appropriate for redevelopment, and then plug in the tools or identify the tools, and from there, further develop planning to carry it out.
Sounds great. Now you might have some questions for us.
Well, first of all, we talked earlier, I talked a little bit about what I look in the community, and I talked a little bit about the present. And as a community, what have they done to move themselves forward and to progress and not languish? And I know that, Eastpointe, along with other parts of the country, Mission, that you did suffer a lot of economic challenges over a period of time. But you've also done an excellent job of overcoming those challenges, of not being defeated by them. I know that you've been able to stabilize your population, which I think is significant. And I think from projections, you have the potential for some significant population growth. And I know financially you've come a long ways in terms of, obviously, the awards, recognition for where you're at financially. I know that there are some, I did review, obviously, your audit, your CAFR, which is very valuable information in terms of upkeep and maintenance of utility systems is very difficult. Many times you have to deal with setting rates. It becomes somewhat of a controversial and difficult issue. But I guess what I would ask is, do you feel that you're, with some recent rate adjustments and with the improvements you made to the system, do you feel that you're gaining some strength in terms of being able to meet those challenges in upgrading, maintaining, and covering operating costs for utility systems?
And upgrade our what? Our utilities? I think.
Yeah,
I think we're doing quite well. The problem, I think, with things such as water is the fact that we don't have a great deal of control. Our water comes in from Detroit, and it's the Great Lakes Water Authority. So those are one of the people. We have control over our infrastructure. And so we've done a great deal of that. We still have a long way to go on both pipe, our sanitary and combined sewers and so forth. But we've made tremendous advances in the last 10 years at replacing, cleaning, blah, blah, blah. We also have, when we're dealing with water and sewer systems, we're dealing with not just the Great Lakes Water Authority, but we're also dealing with two other factions that have a great deal of impact, and what they decide is very difficult for us to change, like the 8.5 mile drain system, which we tie into, and then we have the sanitary district as well, which is combined sewers, sanitary drains. So we're making a lot of advances in those roles, but it takes a lot of time, as you know, to go
definitely.
Go in and assess, do your apportionment studies, and we're doing a great deal of asset management right now.
So you probably, the cost of water that you receive, obviously you're paying a rate for that, and I suppose you're able to do some adjustment on top of that to help cover operating costs. Would that be correct?
Correct. And also capital improvements within the city of Detroit.
Okay, very good.
So, and they've had tremendous amount of capital improvements in the recent years. So we'll be paying on that for a long time. But those are the things that our finance director can fill you in on if you had more questions about that.
Mayor, Council, obviously every city has challenges. You've met a lot of challenges over the last number of years. What do you, as a council and mayor, see as the most immediate and pressing challenge that your next city manager needs to be able to tackle quickly?
Well, I'll tell you, we've come through some of the most severe challenges. It's very few cities that have had a 46% drop in your taxable value and been able to survive that. The Michigan tax structure is really inhibiting with us, and the revenue sharing is controlled and is, what, about 40%, 60%, Randy, of what statutory is supposed to be. But we've made a lot of adjustments, and we're coming through, and we're building up our fund balance, and I think that we've survived that hump, and we can be a little bit more, I don't want to say not cautious, but we're not as rigid, maybe.
But is there, though, initially for your next city manager, though, is a hot particular issue or challenge, though, that you feel that he or she will need to be prepared to take on very quickly to address or help address?
Yeah, actually, Mr. Berlowitz, I'd go with, and Ms. Lucido, you mentioned this last time, the answer, what you talked about with your last question, water and sewer infrastructure, there's always work there. If we wanted to do all the work overnight, it'd be, at least $100 million or something.
98.
So there's always work there, and, of course, it's a very important resource, water and sewer, of course, is very important to keep up, too. So that's, I would say, to me, the most pressing issue if I had to just name one. I guess other than a permanent city manager.
Okay. I see. Probably other than that, I guess I'd ask a little bit, does the city have a pretty good relationship with your collective bargaining units in terms of recent and past negotiations, or are there any you might say, frayed nerve endings in that particular area? Because sometimes collective bargaining over time can sometimes raise a little bit of city versus union type mentality.
Well, the nice part about it is that all the contracts have been signed and are in place for 2 more years.
Oh, good. Well, the last city I managed, there were 4 contracts that expired that I had to come in and negotiate within a year. So that's definitely a good thing to know. You said your contracts are 2-year contracts?
I'm sorry?
Are your contracts are usually 2-year collective bargaining agreements?
Yes, 2, yeah.
2 or 3,
I think,
but I think
3.
we did 3 this year.
And then we have
So that's probably,
and then we have a portion of employees that aren't union, and we have administrative rules that we set that look a lot like our union contracts normally.
okay. So I would definitely say the one I looked at at least a minimum of 2 years and maybe 3 years, or ideally for collective bargaining, because that way you're not consistently at the bargaining table, because that becomes very time consuming, and it's something that less frequent you have to do it, better, even though conditions can change over 2 or 3 year periods. So those are probably the main questions that I would have at this point. And at least the questions that were important to me at this point.
I don't have any more questions. Anyone?
No.
So if you had any more questions about any of the administrative things, or with the finance, or with the budget, these are readily available through the city. I believe the budget is on the website, and the recently completed audit is on the website as well. But if you wanted any of those particular things, I'm sure Linda can make accommodations and get those to you.
Okay, very good. I appreciate that.
Anything else?
No, I think that's it.
Anyone from administration? We have the city attorney, the finance director, the director of public safety, and building and development here. So they're all shaking their heads. They say we don't have any more questions.
Okay. Well, Mayor, Council, I appreciate, again, first of all, again, accommodating my weekend commitment this last week, and also the opportunity to have an opportunity to interview with you tonight.
So thank you so much. We'll appreciate it. And Linda will be in touch. If you have any questions, please be sure and contact her.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you have another question? You started saying.
Oh, no.
Are we moving again?
Or what do we have to, or the discussion was on there?
Yeah, the deliberations and conclusions.
Okay.
Hey, how you doing?
No, I got it.
One further down, I don't think there's another one. Must be that way.
Hope I got mine hooked up.
Unless there's an actual.
Oh, it's over there, okay, gotcha. You're good.
Yeah, was it plugged into something over there?
Oh, I guess mine's.
I thought that was mine.
I know it's not over, but I think.
How you doing? Good. How you doing?
Yes. What a packed agenda.
Yeah.
You gonna do the deliberations now?
We want to talk before we get though? Don't know though.
Wait.
I wasn't gonna, well, I wasn't prepared to deliberate tonight. I just wanted to talk about timeline and
Okay.
background checks and things like that.
So do you want to do that right now? Not yet.
Nah.
Oh, sure.
So, background checks. I did find that consistently the department uses Pfeiffer. Is that right, for background checks, and you've been satisfied with that?
Yes.
And that's an outside source.
I'm happy with that. I don't have a particular preference. As long as they're reasonably priced, then.
Well, they're as reasonably as it comes with that kind of background. Are you going to want to do it for all 5 candidates or just
No.
top 2?
Yeah, I would just say a couple probably, right? Probably
Yeah.
not all of them.
Not all of them.
Oh.
But I want
So
the,
that gets down to the point of who do you want to have background checks on?
well, I
And do you
want,
want to do that tonight? You don't want to do that tonight, is
I
what
wasn't prepared to do that tonight because just finishing our last interview, I'd want to
Right.
go home, compare, and then come ready to.
So if I could suggest then, I would think instead of waiting 3 more weeks, we have another special meeting then possibly, so that we can think about this and discuss, so that, and we're also not just having everyone wait 3 weeks to make a decision. I don't know if
well, I want to go back to the drawing board and pick some more candidates at least 5 more top candidates.
And that was another thought through my mind to maybe bring additional candidates in.
That's
After
gonna
seeing
add
these
another
5.
2 to 3 months. If you,
Personally, like, from going through, I could probably only come up with one more candidate that I would be interested in interviewing out of everybody. I don't think I would be able to even come up with 5. So, I mean, but that's what council wants, I'll, support everyone, but I don't think it's necessary.
My initial thought was just maybe from the original ones that we had selected, because I think there were 8, that didn't make the top 5. I probably wouldn't say going back beyond that.
I didn't see anybody else in that list that I'd like to consider.
I wasn't very compelled by the 5 that I picked, I had 3 that I felt strongly for, and then, just kind of had 2 more because we were picking 5. My concern is that I don't want to delay the process more. And I also don't think 5 more candidates, looking back, I think 1 or 2 I would even have any possible interest in looking at. My main things with timeline, I don't want to delay the process, so I don't know what the solution to that would be. If we could do an interview like immediately, reach out and say, if we can interview you on Thursday morning, we'll let you in under, to be considered. But other than that, I don't really see waiting till like next week to do more interviews.
I'm opposed to that. I don't see anybody else in the remainder of that list that I think meets the qualities that we were looking for.
Well, the people that we did choose that met the qualities, when we did research on most of them, they didn't meet the standards. So that's why I wanted to go back and review the other people and look at them and see, do they meet not only the qualifications but the standards to do the job. And I don't want to, when you do picking a city manager, I know it's been a long time since we had a permanent one, but if we're going to have a permanent one, I think it should be the right one, so we don't be sitting here in another year or so.
Okay. And then you're referring to the 1 year of city manager, assistant city manager experience, meeting the qualifications. You were saying about meeting the qualifications.
Well, yeah, they met the qualifications. Most of the people we picked, that's why they were top 5, because they had a great resume and things like that. But then when we started Googling them and seeing some things that weren't to our liking, I think that it kind of made our top 5 a top 2. And so that's why I wanted to go back to the drawing board and have a bigger, better selection in choosing, and possibly the people that we did like out of the top 5 use them, and then the next couple of people just do a second interview if you want to do it that way.
My main concern is timeline. What were you thinking time-wise?
Well, like Cardi said, the people that we already chosen, we can use them out the list that we used a couple of weeks ago.
Like, how long till an interview, you're saying?
Yeah, that's my concern. Because I don't know what council's availability is like. But it's no skin off my teeth if I have to come in one more time this week to do some interviews or something like that. But I really don't want to stretch out the process more than necessary.
I will be out of town from Friday to Monday.
Okay.
I'm going to be out of town next week.
So I think if we're going to try to do it, we should aim for Thursday.
Okay.
This week?
Well, we're out to timeline.
Yeah, otherwise we're pushing it till next.
For deliberation? Or to invite other people to interview?
Well, whatever the council
Whatever we
decides.
just, Well, because I think, my thoughts is just, I wouldn't feel comfortable deciding anything right now since we just had the last
Right,
interview.
right.
For- And I think everyone's on the
But
same page with
Thursday
that.
might be a workable day
For at least deliberations, I mean.
for deliberations.
And then just, yeah, we just
Will you
come
be
to.
ready by Thursday, Michael?
Yes, I will. Yes. Do you remember what numbers were selected but not interviewed? Because
Sure.
there would be 3, right?
No, there's 8.
8.
Eight people had 1 vote, and then there were 4 people with 3 votes, and 1 person with 5.
There was 8 total, correct? And there was 5 that we interviewed? Are you saying
No,
that there's
there's 8 with
8
one
more
vote.
people that got?
Yeah, there were 8, besides the ones we just interviewed, 8 other candidates
Okay.
received 1 vote, yeah. So yeah, that would just be, everyone that we didn't interview, only 1 person selected each of those. So none of them even got 2 votes. So,
I honestly don't think it'll be fruitful. I'm worried about stretching out this timeline, so. I went back and I took a look too to see if there was anyone that I felt met my standards, I suppose, and I don't think there are out of the remaining candidates.
okay.
Even
I guess
though I
everyone could review the list and we could talk about it Thursday, I guess, if change,
Yeah, 'cause I
if
mean,
anyone changes their mind.
Yeah, because I went back through too, and I felt the same way. Like, I didn't think there was anyone that was really like disappointed we were not interviewing.
I mean, I guess I'm a little biased because there were 3 that we didn't interview on my list, but so I think at least 2 of them would be interested in. But okay, I mean, obviously we need 3 people to figure anything out that we're doing going forward. So, should we then
All right. so
set up a
wanna-
meeting for
Do you want to
Thursday?
set a meeting then for Thursday?
I would be happy to set a meeting for Thursday, coming prepared for deliberations. I just don't see other candidates being viable.
So what time would you like to do it?
Anytime that works for council.
7.
6.
I work in Lansing on Thursday,
7?
so
7?
I'd probably have to do 7. Yeah, if we could do 7.
If you fly and there's no snowstorm?
Yeah. I'll work 8 to 4, and then I got 3 hours to get here, I guess. I might need it.
All right, so let's plan Thursday at 7.
Talk to Mr. Chief.
Yes.
Okay. So I guess, anything else on that? And you're fine with the background check by Pfeiffer?
Yeah, and I think on Thursday, when we have our final candidates, we'll just do them, so we save,
So are we going to go to the final 2, final 3? We'll wait until.
Yeah, I figured on Thursday, we could,
Okay.
if we're divided.
Sounds good.
So, Madam Mayor, just so, that's going to be a special meeting for deliberations.
Correct. And Linda's still got time to get the posting out.
There's enough time.
She can get it out tomorrow. All right, let's move on for the rest of the council meeting.
Payroll and bills?
Payroll and bills.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve payment of the bills in the amount of $1,285,354.21.
Support?
Move support. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Kleinfeld,
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido,
Yes.
Councilmember Owens,
Yes.
Mayor Pixley,
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico.
Yes.
All right, we'll move to the second hearing of the public. Do either of you want to be heard?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. I guess the situation or the topic I'd like to talk about is under new business, under E, adoption of resolution 1847, City of Eastpointe transfers the 8 Mile Road Community Center. I am concerned where the money's going to go after the building is sold. I know half of it comes to Eastpointe and half of it goes to Roseville. I'd like to take the consideration and see what the council's got on their mind. I've got a lot of things on mind, but please give that some due thought, because there, as I said, I was looking at this and I said under investigation, I asked where the money come from when RARE was first put together, and I am at the understanding that it comes from the waterfront. I got into it. I looked for it to see where the principal and the money was going. Can't find it. I see right here under the line items, one thing I do see though, as I said, it says right here, interest on loan to RARE this year should be $15,047. That's the interest. I'd like to know where the principal's at and where it's going. I'd like to see if it's going back in the water fund too, or if it's going back in the general fund, or just where it's going. Because under line items, I can't find it. There's quite a few other questions. I said I've got question after question. I'm hoping I can get together with Joe and Randy Blum here for this meeting. But under the motor pool, under the 18 budget, I'm looking at one too, as I said right here. It says replace code enforcement vehicles of $145,000. I think in 15 is when we had the original, when we bought the code vehicles out there before too. We have a 5.1 square mile city. How many miles can those vehicles possibly have on them? When more than half the time they sit out there in the parking lot. When they were first bought, I discussed it too. They were saying it was cheaper for them not to drive their vehicles, cheaper for insurance, cheaper for fleet. Well, I had a discussion with a person out there today that drives one of those vehicles. He was telling me, excuse me for saying this, they're not much. They're literally falling apart, but I mean the same thing about it. They're only, what, maybe 4 years old? And I'm just going to say, I mean, can we get any value out of them? Or are we just going to go ahead and do the same thing? Buy another fleet for $145,000. And I, like I said, there again too, if you look under motor pool, it's got another one under there of rentals, $50,000. What is the city renting for $50,000? I've asked these questions many times. I'm hoping to consideration that you'll be looking into them, especially Cardi and Michael, and under investigation and the rest of the stuff. I think we're not really squandering money, but we're usually, money is just going from right hand to left hand, and we're not getting anything for it. I don't see the residents. I see under here too, I mean, the great information, I can go back there, it says right here, it says that we own 14 snow removal vehicles in the city. 14. I've seen 2 new ones. I don't know where the rest of them are all at. I would like to get into our motor pool and see what we really own. You know, I mean, there's all kinds of, just look, please, get these figures and facts and read them. It's unbelievable what we do own and what we don't own. What do we do? I mean, I said before too, if you look under mechanics and the rest of the stuff, under maintenance and under our funds, the thing I can't figure out, the worst part about this too, especially under funds, you read the fund here and it says Recreation Fund, $674. You get back into the budget, it says Recreation and Culture Fund, $1.7 million. You get back into it again, you look on a 10-year span, it says $2.3 million. How can anybody, like I said before too, I'm one of those people. You said read it, I read it from front to back in not 2 places. As I said, and especially the one right there too, at that planning commission last year, I know it, and it's the truth. I appreciate what the gentleman said. I appreciate what the mayor said tonight. All you people, I appreciate this. I'm complaining we need $135 million just in infrastructure alone in the city for water and sewer. I know we need this, but we haven't put what somebody said we put in this infrastructure. Prove it to me. As I said to residents, you keep saying we have to have this, we have to have this. Our biggest fight is water and sewer right now. I know this for a fact. We all know this right here too. But you can't keep coming to the residents. You come to them, as I said, for a 14 mil I said, Smora. Then you come into the saying, raise your water, say 40%. This piece of licorice, you stretch it as far as you can stretch
You have
it.
30 seconds.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As I say, I really appreciate this. Look into this. And as I said before, too, I can come up here and read figures. You know, to say one thing about it, I can write them and you can write them. But there's a lot of them I really want some answers to. Hopefully I can get together with Randy and the rest of the stuff, too. I've got a lot of information. I just said before, here's just some things I'd like to see the council look into them and actually see, because I know the residents here want to know where the money's going. Thank you. Been a pleasure.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone else wish to be heard? Okay, second hearing of the public is closed. Move to mayor and council reports. Mr. Kleinfeld.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First, I just want to say that all of our council went to a MLK event this past Sunday and heard Justice Young, former Michigan Supreme Court Justice, speak, and I thought went extremely well and was a great speech. So it was an honor to be there and hear him speak. And great that all of us went. I think we're the only locality that had just our entire representatives there. I will respond to at least one thing, Mr. Creech. The building being sold, that money goes to RARE. I'm not entirely sure exactly what they intend to do with it. I think they intend to spend it on capital, but when RARE was formed, we had to put capital assets into RARE. That was Eastpointe's chunk of our contribution. If they decide to split it in half and send it back to the communities, they could do that, but it's going to be up to them once they receive those funds what to do with it. Other than that, I don't think I have anything else.
Okay, Mrs. Lucido?
I have nothing to report this evening.
Really? All right. Ms. Monique Owens.
Yes, I also want to thank everyone who invited the council to MLK. It was really nice. We all showed up, so that was awesome that, council shows up and supports events like that. And we also had an event, PACE, today. PACE had an event, and that was really nice. I think the mayor has been doing it for a long time now, and she got an award today. They provided a certificate for her, and that was really awesome. She does a lot in the community. And you guys know I'm part of the library now. And so just to give you some updates, they are having a fundraiser coming up at Cloverleaf. And that's going to be awesome because I love their pizza. That's February the 27th. So look out for that. Also, I would like to remind you we have tutor.com at the library. So please, it's very important to let your kids know, schools know that you have available resources at the library that's free. Someone that can help your kids, with homework and things like that. I know as a busy parent like myself, sometimes it's hard for me to help my children all the time. And so that resource, tutor.com, is paying for it. The city is paying for it to, help the students, help parents. So please take advantage of the things that we have in your city. And also want to say MLK, I want to say something about that. Martin Luther King's birthday is very important. And the things that we have going on like PACE shows that his dream is living on through things like that. And so that's all I have for tonight.
Mr. DeMonica.
Right. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll touch on the MLK Day breakfast also. As said, we were all there. Saw former Chief Justice Bob Young speak, and I said last meeting that for everyone to learn something on MLK Day, and I'll have to say I have a takeaway from his speech then, just to not take our rights for granted that we have right now. It's of course always a national topic of conversation, just all kinds of very controversial things at that level. And just generations ago, or not generations, I meant decades, just decades ago, just 5 decades ago, we had the civil rights movement here. That's not very long ago. So Chief Justice Young was saying, make sure that you learn. He was sharing his personal experiences because that's how recent it was, and that young folks need to realize that it wasn't long ago, and every generation needs to keep the dream alive, essentially. So that's what I took away from his speech. I thought he did give a very good speech, and I guess to transition, next Tuesday is the State of the State, and the week after is the State of the Union. So keep informed about our state and country in the next couple weeks, and then a little after that, February 8th, Beautification Commission. We almost have a full group now, but February 8th, it's a Thursday at 7 p.m. here. We'll be having the Beautification Awards. That's always really great. Everyone that comes, it's unexpected, but every person that receives an award always wants to tell a whole story about the landscape of their home. Like every single winner. We'll see if this year's the same, but it's great to hear. Everyone's got so much pride in their home. So come out to that again, February 8th, 7 p.m. right here in the City Council chambers. And that was all, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. I was really excited to see, very proud. I was very proud. I feel like the big mama sometimes. But I was very proud to see Eastpointe so well represented. And besides the council, there were 3 other tables of Eastpointe residents. So that was very exciting to see. And I have to go along with all of you because I thought that Robert Young's speech was exceptional. It was really good. And I happen to have grown up in segregated Detroit, or what he called segregated Detroit. And I worked, I went to nursing school at Ford Hospital back in the 60s. And it was at that time that we were all ready to go down to Selma in March, and almost did, except they took my time away. So I had to go take care of some of their mothers. But anyway, I was very impressed. And Sandifer, who the pastor in charge of it, was so impressed with all of us from Eastpointe being there that he came today to the PACE luncheon. Oh. And I was really surprised because, you'd say, well, sure, come on down and see us. And I turned around and there he was. And he said, I almost couldn't find the schoolhouse. But, he was very excited to see so many people. And we were really excited. And one of the people that we had, I invited at the last minute, was our city attorney. And he came and brought Calvin as well, and with a couple other police officers. So it was a really good event. I think we probably had about 40. I don't know. I worked so hard. I have no idea how many people were there. But it was a very good event, and we hope to do more of that kind of event. And the school superintendent was there as well. So he's really looking forward to our joint meeting coming up, which is very nice. It was really nice to see so many teens out in the audience today from the student assembly group. So I hope that we can really beef up our the students coming and taking over our role on that one night in May or something like that.
Shadowing, yeah.
So maybe we can plan ahead and do some more with that, some different things similar to what they do in Roseville. They do a really, really nice program. I hate to say you're going to do it like Roseville does, but they have a nice, Michael pointed that out to me, they have a really good program. So I have nothing else. I will be gone. I have to wish your mother a happy birthday. It's on the 20th.
Oh, no, it was yesterday.
Yesterday.
Yeah,
All right, well, wish your mother a happy birthday for us.
I will. Thank you.
And Steve Betas is on the 21st.
Oh.
And I remember that because mine is the day after his. So anyway, so I am. My daughter is baking me a pineapple upside down cake. Ooh. But I have to go to Florida to get it. So, so if it snows, I'm not going to be too sad about going. Anyway, I will entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Madam Mayor, I'll motion to go into closed session for attorney-client privilege communication regarding pending litigation with the U.S. Department of Justice.
Support. Move and support. Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico,
Yes.
Councilmember Owens,
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido,
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld,
Yes.
Mayor Pixley.
Yes. We'll go in at 10:15.
I don't, but thank you.